Okay, good evening, and welcome to the January 28th meeting of the City of Placerville City Council. If everybody will please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome everybody tonight. We have another nice size audience of residents, citizens, so always good to see that and see people involved in their local city. So go ahead and get started. Regina, can we call a roll call, please?
Mayor Saragosa,
Here.
Vice Mayor Thomas,
Here.
Councilmember Acuna,
Here.
Councilmember Borelli,
Here.
and Councilmember Taylor will be noted as absent. Thank you.
Okay, we have quorum. Moving on to item 3, announcements and presentations to the public. And item 3.1 is the year in review, and that will be Councilmember Acuna, who, through a variety of issues, we hadn't had a chance to do his state of the city beforehand. So it is now the year in review. So, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor Saragosa. Appreciate your allowing me to have this opportunity to get to something that we didn't have a chance to last year. I think our meeting in December ended sometime about 11:15, and that was just a wee bit late, given a number of items. And so, with that, I had it intentioned as a State of the City address, and as he just mentioned, it is now a year in review. It's always an honor to serve as the mayor for the City of Placerville, representing the citizens and employees of our great town. It's also always been an honor. It's also been my honor to work with 3 new council members, Kara Taylor, Dennis Thomas, and Michael Saragosa, in their first year as elected officials, Michael's continuing learning experience. Their dedication, integrity, willingness to learn, ask questions, and commitment to the long hours is a tremendous gift to all the citizens of Placerville. As I begin, it's important to publicly recognize all of our employees who have worked so hard in 2019. It is their effort that keeps Placerville running every single day of the year. It is their ingenuity and creative efforts that work with ever-shrinking budgets and limited resources. It is their dedication that finds solutions to unthinkable problems and keep things running. I thank you. In early 2019, we completed our department reorganization and added 2 experienced department heads, Nick Stone in Public Works and Terry Zeller in Community Services. Combined with our existing management staff, the city is now meeting the calls for service while working to improve and protect our historic town and its many charms. Community Services continues to provide engaging programs and facilities enjoyed by county and city residents alike. Under Terry Zeller's direction, many of our programs and park facilities are being reevaluated, looking for an improved user experience from dance class, swim lessons, Little League, and the ever-popular adult softball. Under the review of our dedicated Recreation and Parks Commission to ensure our community's needs are heard and met, a very important function. All delivered by a town hall recreation staff that has to set the standards for warm, friendly customer service. I have never been in this building and not seen a smile and always a hello. It was Terry and his staff that completed the Main Street RFP and helped ensure a bright future for the Confidence Hall and Immigrant Jane buildings. Terry also restaffed and refocused our park crews to support them in maintaining all of our parks in the city for all of our citizens to enjoy. Our capable public works crew again took on the wrath of nature under Nick Stone's calm leadership. Nick's crew is to be commended for mastering the fine art of snow plowing, sanding ice, and clearing down trees in real time, storm after storm. I'm thinking of last February especially. It was Public Works that oversaw the paving and beautification of the ugliest parking lot in Placerville, the Center Street lot. Visitors now enjoy a smooth ride and a view of our historic buildings. It's Public Works that keeps our systems, modern and antique, working, no matter the challenge or time of day or the season. They face our history daily, dealing with the old pipes, clogged lines, narrow streets, and questionable decisions made by our well-intended forefathers. Why did they put the line in the backyard? I am very proud of all their efforts and the dedication of our Public Works employees up on the hill at the courtyard. 2019 was the year the economy wouldn't stop growing. Placerville and Dave Warren enjoyed steady growth in our sales tax revenue. The number of new business openings is steady, along with an increase in activity to update and improve a number of our existing commercial buildings. A huge thank you to those property and business owners that value being a part of Placerville and chose to invest their dollars in our future. Staff and council continue to investigate funding and planning ideas to correct the blight on Broadway and welcome new commercial development in Placerville. The need for motel rooms remains sadly unfilled, but there is hope the long unmet need will finally change in 2020. We must double our efforts to build those rooms. Along with this business activity, we have also witnessed the closing of a number of historic, long-standing businesses that served our city for decades, if not centuries. It's important to honor the years of service these owners and their employees have provided us. It is not a time for fear or foreboding. We are simply witnessing the cycle of change, the cycle of growth, learning, and change. Without this process, this city and community will not thrive. Moving on, City Engineering delivered the Western Placerville Interchange Project, the largest public work project in the city's history. It seems a natural fit now and a huge resource being enjoyed by the entire community. Measure L and H projects keep moving forward despite the challenges of 100-year-old pipes, unmapped infrastructure, and relentless storms. City Engineer Rebecca Neves took management of our most expensive city investment in 2019, the Water Reclamation Facility, or as I more fondly recall to it, the sewer plant. I thank her for ensuring that that facility and investment is fully staffed, maintained, and in compliance throughout the year. Engineering staff is focused on 2020 becoming known as the year we set a record for the completed paving projects in Placerville. Is it possible? Will we actually get tired of road rebuilding and repaving projects in 2020? I, for one, certainly hope so. As the year ended, Placerville felt the strain of the homeless issues on many fronts. Our police department remains dedicated to helping any person that requests assistance, providing 24/7 first contact for any member of our community at risk. They deal with mental illness, substance abuse, and violent non-compliance on a daily basis. Last summer, working with the county sheriff, our officers broadened that service to include working on the HOT team to address chronic homelessness. The goal remains always provide the correct service to the person in need. Sadly, none of this is enough, for our problem is global in its proportions. We are called on to do more, to spend funds or use resources that simply do not exist. New and improved programs are launching to help our homeless. It's painfully slow, but the commitment to improve services is growing. While these programs and funds become established, I call on our entire faith-based community to open their facilities to those citizens in need. Your help is badly needed. To those few churches that continue to help and serve, you have the thanks and gratitude of your community for your leadership and compassion. We began 2019 with a very real fear and concern from the wildfire after painfully watching paradise burn in November 2018, a month that should be far removed from wildfires. We ended the year disappointed with a longtime trusted community partner, PG&E, for allowing their system to become unsafe during the fall wind conditions. Regarding wildfire safety, the city is thankful for the hard work and dedication of our new wildfire safety advocates that created the Placerville Fire Safe Council, creating an organization separate from the city, eligible for grants, education programs, and open to all of our citizens. We are now vastly better prepared because of their efforts. With their expert assistance and community collaboration, we also created a new fire safe ordinance and began the long process of making Placerville a safer, fire-educated community, better prepared for a wildfire. We must remain on guard against becoming complacent unless we wish for history to repeat itself. In October, Placerville and Northern California faced new threats. The losses and impacts from the PG&E PSPS events were very real at every level of this community. We cannot allow this type of disruption to occur unless real windstorm conditions exist. The 4 no-wind PSPS events were irresponsible and unneeded. PG&E has an obligation to modernize and repair its facilities to withstand normal weather conditions. They need to listen to local experts and accept real-time local fire weather data in 2020. City staff worked countless hours with El Dorado County Fire District to press PG&E leadership during every PSPS event, and I thank every member of both organizations that participated. Former Chief Lloyd Ogan is to be commended for his tireless efforts to provide factual fire science information to PG&E. His efforts clearly illustrated the lack of risk to PG&E and the real risk created by their needless power outages. We do have a commitment from PG&E to meet with their senior leadership in Placerville. Our efforts will focus on fire education and verified weather information so their need for their shutdowns can be greatly reduced. There are many challenges in 2019 in the name of history and preservation. Placerville and Main Street enjoy a rich history, from Gold Rush, Art Deco, and what I call modern historic stucco from the 1950s and 60s. The city's history is not frozen in time. The need to remain a working town is stronger than ever. Main Street, Placerville Drive, and Broadway all possess unique histories, and those histories are their strengths and need to be respected. I look forward to preserving the mustard and ketchup buildings and enjoying their new continued use on Main Street as a part of the historic culture and streetscape. The many suggestions about museums, cultural programs, and historic displays are all wonderful ideas. To allow these ideas to flourish, it will take a large number of deeply dedicated volunteers and advocates to fund and operate them, but it can be done. I wonder if a new interest will arise to work collectively to create a new historic district or reassess the current residential districts. We need to work as a community to address historic preservation while maintaining and respecting property owners' rights. Throughout the year, one department that was involved in all of these issues was community development. Under Pierre Rivas's leadership, the second floor, as I like to refer to it, took on all issue, helping other departments, applicants, citizens, and the council addressing concerns large and small in every corner of Placerville. We turned to planning staff to address cannabis licenses, fire ordinances, zoning restrictions, affordable housing, state and federal housing rules, planning commission issues, traffic calming, and even murals. The second floor handled these issues and many more, all while issuing record numbers of building permits for commercial and residential projects. I'm proud to say construction was very much alive in Placerville in 2019. As we move into the new decade in 2020, many things are moving forward in Placerville. We recognize the challenges are almost endless, but the dedication and passion to see Placerville thrive and grow are strong. To our critics, I say thank you for making me stop and think. We do serve the citizens. Constructive, open, respectful communication is always healthy and welcome. Let's not fall prey to the climate of distrust, suspicion, and disrespect infecting so many of our current civic conversations. We need to improve more and better services. We need new ideas must be found to improve Placerville's income. Our department heads stretch their budget and work as a team for the benefit of the citizens. This willingness to work together is a magnificent gift, but we must find new income for the city to remain viable. Millions in unfunded needs can't be left on the floor every budget cycle. Working to better showcase our region, many attractions like gold mining history, Whitewater, Apple Hill, and winery tours all need to be a part of our story. Allow me to thank Cleve Morris for his steady leadership in 2019. The challenges were many and widely varied. I encourage him to continue to support and expand our staff while improving the services they provide to the citizens of Placerville. Cleve's commitment to the city is deep. His patience, while frequently challenged, is an inspiration as he works to address issues old and new. Local government is not for the faint of heart. He is a professional, approachable, and always seeks positive outcomes, no matter the situation or issue. I thank you for your efforts in 2019. Some interesting moments before I close. Some things that just struck me as a little bit unusual for a year as a mayor. I talked about Nick and his snow fighting efforts. Well, there was what I called the pine tree house on Cedar Ravine, which was destroyed by a huge ponderosa pine in February of 2019. And I'm happy to report that those people moved back in this month. So good luck to the little house on Cedar Ravine. We all know which one it was. The tree went right through it. Amazing that nobody was killed. One of the other interesting things that occurred during my mayorship was the falsely claimed destruction by the city of the Veterans Hall. It happened on the 4th of July holiday weekend. City manager happened to be out of town, and there was a determined effort to defame the city and make a false claim that we were going to destroy the Veterans Hall. I'm happy to report that with Mr. Warren's help and everyone else, we proved that issue wrong, and I was proud of this council and the support that we showed for every single veteran in this community, and proved that that was an unfounded claim. There was the PG&E darkening of Placerville in October of last year. And those happened so many different times. Cleve was out of the office once, and Pierre was the acting city manager and actually oversaw the installation of the now famous mobile substation. Pierre gave it a double thumbs up that morning on one of his text updates that PG&E had brought that in, and he supervised them turning it on. So thank you, Pierre. And they've also served as city manager during one of those trying times when the entire city was dark, unheard of in a modern citizenship. The PSPS events that didn't happen. A few folks know that through the efforts of former Chief Lloyd Ogan, Cleve Morris, and myself, we actually think we finally got PG&E's attention, and they didn't pull the switch in November. More of that hopefully will be to our successes this year. There was a tragic event with Bryant, the death of Sheriff's Deputy Bryant Ishmael, and the call for this community to step up and represent him, his family, and all the first responders. And the pride that I felt as a representative by every citizen that stepped forward, lined these streets, and showed their support throughout this county for that gentleman's great loss. On a more positive note, there was the new and spectacular Christmas lighting that sets new standards for downtown that everybody enjoyed, and I can't wait to see what that committee comes up with this year. There was the Christmas Day Parade storm, but the day that it didn't rain on Santa. Having been involved in a cancellation before, Cleve and I were not going to let it rain, and it wasn't. It didn't. His sun was shining on Santa as he made his way down Main Street. So it is with that, I will close now. It's our mutual commitment to the city that keeps us all moving forward. To staff and council, thank you for attending so many long, serious, and contentious meetings. You have my sincere thanks for your hard work and dedication. Thank you very much, Mr. Zaragoza. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mark. And just a quick word. I just want to thank you for taking this newbie and as a new vice mayor and kind of showing me the ropes and keeping me informed on everything that was going on. And I can tell the city that Mark's efforts during the PSPS were absolutely critical. I don't know anybody else in the state that has his background with PG&E, his meteorological background, the weather, and his local government experience. You put all those things together, and I don't think there's anyone else in the PG&E coverage area that has that skill set. And it really was on display as we had a sort of fight with PG&E and with some other elements. And I do believe, along with Chief Ogan, to get that last one stopped. And as we go forward, and I know we'll be continuing to lean on your efforts and your knowledge as we move forward here next year, and hopefully come to a better understanding with PG&E to lessen those PSPSs on us. So again, Mark, thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay. On to item 3.2, comments by City Council, and I'll start with Councilwoman Borelli.
Well, the one thing that I did attend was the Moore Workshop fundraiser, and I'm happy to say that Susie was able to raise enough money to fix that roof. It was a great occasion, and again, thanks to community efforts and the wonderful way that our folks always come through in a pinch. She needed more money and she got it. So it was a great night. And then I also attended Fire Safe Council meeting, and I'm happy to say that Chief Cadero was there, and we really welcome him coming to our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
I'm all typed out. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
All right. Let's see. I went to the chamber installation dinner, which was a great event. We got to hear a little about what's going on in our community and those that serve through the chamber. I think the chamber is a great asset to the city, and we're very fortunate, not just to the city, but to have them here on Main Street as well, bringing people into town and then supporting not only the city of Placerville, but the whole county. They talked about some really great things. There's a new movie coming out this spring that's a blockbuster hit that was filmed right here in El Dorado County that they said we couldn't talk about. But
That always happens. They can't.
but they talked about it anyway. So it is truly a real blockbuster with some. It's a remake of a 1980s movie, something to do with jets. I don't know. And then I also attended the Shingle Springs Tribal Health. They have a new clinic that is specific for the Tribal Health Indian. American Indian population. So they did relocate it right here in town. It used to be down in Shingle Springs. So it is on Main Street, and it will be helping support that community. One of the things, I met with a group of people from Christmas, not from Christmas, from the Christmas, what do we call it, Festival of Lights. And I was, of course, I don't know if of course is the right word, but I spent quite a bit of time working with our community, the faith-based community, and local merchants on putting together this Christmas Festival of Lights program for this year. And so we did a recap, and I'm really happy to announce that they are really eager to even do more next year, making it bigger and better. So I'm excited, looking forward to that. And they'll be here at the next meeting to receive some very appropriate recognition for their efforts this year. And with that, I'll turn it to the mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just quickly, I had a meeting with LAFCO, just really a orientation for me. I mean, we all sort of know what LAFCO is, but really I had a chance to sit down with Jose, kind of go over some of the issues that are confronting LAFCO, and if should anything from the city ever come before us. So it was a really great meeting for me to get a little bit better understanding of what goes on at LAFCO and how we're ably represented by Councilman Acuna. And then I just want to send my apologies for missing the Moore fundraiser. I had a very, very dear friend's 50th birthday party that evening that I was committed into, and so we'll be there again next year. And always want to thank our Placerville residents for coming out, as Councilwoman Borelli said, to show their support for a wonderful organization and to raise a lot of funds for it. So between that and the Boys and Girls Club a couple of weeks earlier, I'm really impressed with what our city and what our residents can do for our local nonprofits. So again, Susie, congratulations on that. And I think that's it on my end. So item 3.3, acknowledge and file the workers' compensation trending report as of June 30th, 2019. And I believe Mr. Warren has a...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor,
this one.
members of the council. Tonight we have Dory Zumwalt, account executive from Sedgwick, to give the presentation. So with that, I'll hand it over to Dory.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
So about every 5 years, it seems, for a lot of cities and counties in Northern California, I get to deliver either really good news or really bad news. So I'm pleased to say that this year you get really good news. This is your year. So for this last fiscal year, you guys did fantastic. There were only 2 claims for last year, which was great. And so we're going to see that trickle down for the rest of the charts that we're going to go over this year. So with only 2 claims that were low in severity, the paid was low, the incurred was low, and incurred means our paid plus what we think we might have to pay. So our paid plus reserved is what incurred means, or severity. This year, however, we did have more that was paid, but we were able to resolve a couple of the older claims. So we had to pay a little bit more up front, but we'll see that savings down the line. And our recoveries, those are how much money we get back generally from excess coverage, or if there was a third party at fault, we try to recover some money to get some money back for the city. This chart, this top chart, lost days for dates of injuries, this one I am so excited about. So great job to Regina and Dave. This is like one that you want to frame. This is fantastic. No lost days. That's huge. So congratulations on that, you guys. The next chart shows the closing ratio, because I like to look how many claims are coming in versus how many claims we're able to close. So we like to have at least a 100% ratio, meaning, you know, if you get 10 new claims, we want to be able to close out at least 10 older claims. So as you can see, for this last fiscal year, we did really great. There was a 400% ratio there. So, and that helped with only having 2 new claims. We were able to close off some of the older ones. So the next charts go through some trending, what types of injuries have happened over the past 5 years. So you could take a look and see what hazards are out there for the employees of the city. So the biggest one is strain type injuries, and it falls into the cumulative trauma type injuries. And usually with cumulative trauma injuries, it affects more than one body part. So it could be your shoulder and your hand, or maybe your hip and your knee. Backs are usually included in that as well. So the multiple body parts are generally always the most severe, because more than one body part was injured. And the next chart just shows the different types of injury types that have come in. There's no surprises there. The city is very consistent, except for a lot lower, but very consistent with other cities in the area. The top occupation is always police. Just the occupational hazard. So you win. So I want to apologize, though, for, I think it's for Public Works. There may be a little scare here for Public Works on this next chart. So Public Works, you did not have 24 claims. That actually, so you can take a deep breath. You guys had 7. So my chart, and I apologize for that, it just flip-flopped there. So, wouldn't it be great if your average claim was $350 for the police department? That would be unheard of. So we'll take that one, but that's not right. It's actually the 24 claims is for police. And so in Northern California, typically the average claim is between 22 to 24,000. And so with the police claims are less than that. And again, police is always the biggest share of the pie. So you guys are doing great, even though that number looks a little scary compared to the other numbers. It's proportioned exactly how it should be. And the next chart, I have the top 10 claims that have come in, just so you could take a look to see, what happened, what were the claims that cost them the most money for the city, and to take a look, to reflect, to see if there's something that can be done. In looking at this, however, most of those are cumulative trauma type injuries, and with the state of California, that's a very common type injury. In fact, in the past, since 2005, the number of cumulative trauma claims in the state of California has gone up by 80%. So it's going to be a trend that we're going to keep seeing. And so there's nothing here that stands out as something that we need to correct course here. This is just following what we're seeing within the state. And then the next chart, so Placerville belongs to a pool called Northern California City Self-Insurance Fund, and there's 22 members that belong to that pool. So I included a snapshot of how many claims over the past 5 years each city's received, and what the severity, or that incurred, that paid plus reserve, and then an average. Now this is a really simple average. I just took the 2 numbers and divided them. Again, that average for Northern California that we're seeing is about 22 to 24,000. For the state of California, the average indemnity claim, I'm glad everybody's sitting, is $70,000, which is a lot. So you guys are doing fantastic. So Here's the one with you guys. So your average claim is about 11,000, which is significantly under the state of California and about half of what we're seeing in Northern California.
Thanks, Dory. And to put that in perspective, the cities that are within the pool that are close to the size of Placerville, being Auburn, Oroville, and Red Bluff, they have similar size payrolls. You can see that Placerville, again, as Dory indicated, is well below those averages. So we're doing really well. And it really is a team effort. You know, the training, the safe, you know, the training, just all the employees trying to be safe. I mean, things happen, and a lot of good luck. So anyway, congratulations to all of our departments.
Thank you, Dory.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, council, any questions?
No, I just always, I enjoy your coming to visit us once a year, and your smiling face, and you make us all feel good, so thank you.
You guys did great this year, so yay. Thank you so much.
Any comments from public? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you. Item 4, closed session report. City Attorney Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council did not take reportable action tonight in closed session.
All right, thank you. Item 5, adoption of agenda.
I'll move for adoption.
Second?
First and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Okay. Agenda is adopted. So we'll move on to item 6, ceremonial matters. Item 6.1, proclamation for Kumbalik. We're going to hold on that one. Gail wasn't able to get here tonight, so we're going to make sure that we do this when Gail's actually here. So we will move on to proclamation 6.2. And this is a proclamation for more. So Susie, I don't know if you want to come up to the podium. Okay, so I'll go ahead and read this here. A proclamation of the City Council of the City of Placerville honoring Motherlode Rehabilitation Enterprises. Whereas in 1969, Motherlode Rehabilitation Enterprises, Moore, opened its doors in Placerville, California, and whereas in 2019, Moore celebrated 50 years of dedicated and compassionate service to Placerville and the surrounding communities, and whereas Moore is a private nonprofit that makes dreams come true for the people they serve, and whereas Moore is committed to improving the quality of life of the special individuals they connect with every day, and whereas Moore continues to empower individuals with disabilities to enhance their quality of life through education and everyday experiences, and whereas Moore is committed to making a difference through their work and seek to understand what can be, not simply what is. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the virtue of authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Placerville, State of California, we offer our thanks and appreciation for the 50 years of service Moore has provided to the City of Placerville and to its residents. And this is dated June 28th, 2020, and signed by myself and the rest of the City Council. We have Council Member Taylor, who's not here, so we're going to come down and give it to you, but then take it right back so we can have Council Member Taylor sign it as well. But again, congratulations. Thank you.
Much. As you know, our new building renovation project is going great guns, and we're right up to speed. As far as, we started late, but right now they're going to put the drywall up next week. Can you believe that? So if anybody, I know the chief doesn't want to come see, but if anybody wants to come see the process that's happening, he wants to come see it at the end. I invite anybody from the city or the city council to come and see the progress that's happening, because it's really exciting. So we hope to have the project done in October of 2020.
Susie, if we want to come, do we come in just your office first and get somebody to escort us?
Yes, I'll take you over.
Okay.
So, and call ahead.
Okay.
But it's really exciting. If for some of you that haven't heard, we're going to have a huge art gallery. We're going to have a commercial kitchen with a huge dining room. We're going to have art studios. We're going to have a performance area. We even are going to have a media art center where people can do podcasts with a soundproof booth. So we're really excited about the changes. You'll never believe it was a bowling alley when it's all done. So thank you again for this
One
honor.
more thing, you're also going to have a room, like a meeting room, or that will be rented to the public, be able to,
Oh, we'll have 2 conference rooms,
conference room, and then,
as well as a dining room area that's huge, that can be divided into 3
okay,
spots. But yeah, it's pretty much going to be a community building.
that's great.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Susie.
you,
Any
Susie.
other comments?
Mr. Mayor, Susie, thank you very much, and congratulations on your 50 years. And thank you and your board for your continued commitment to Placerville. I do remember when it was a bowling alley, and I look forward to having you completely change that for us. Just like the Boys and Girls Club, this is an organization that chose to be in Placerville originally, and they have recommitted to Placerville again. That wasn't always necessary. Maybe the boards could have looked elsewhere, but they didn't. They looked to Placerville. And Moore has done a tremendous job serving a very special part of our population. And I look forward to 50 more years of their great success. And I thank them for having faith in us to be part of that story. So, thank you, Susie.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Cleve?
Cleve?
Just quickly, I want to mention also, and thanks, Susie, for those of you that don't know, I know that Mark was there. Mark and I attended their awards banquet, and the city was awarded the Employer of the Year from Moore. I think, as they recall, stating that we were one of, if not the longest running employer working with Moore to use their services. So thank you for that too, Susie.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, I just want to echo what Mark said. I'm looking, whoever's sitting here 50 years from now, so that somebody will be giving out a nice proclamation for the 100-year anniversary as well. Susie.
It'll still be Susie.
I do want to share one more thing, that I've been at Moore 37 years this year, and I still love being there. So it's been such an honor to work with the city of Placerville.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to another proclamation, item 6.3, proclamation for Randolph Jewelers. And Charlie, if you want to come up to the front here, to the podium. And I will read this proclamation. A proclamation of the City Council of the City of Placerville honoring the history of Randolph Jewelers on historic Main Street. Whereas in 1852, the Bars family started a jewelry store at 375 Main Street, and whereas in 1922, the store was purchased by the Berger family and continued as a jewelry store on Main Street, and whereas in 1946, William Randolph acquired the store and named it Randolph Jewelers, which operated continuously in Placerville until sold in 1981, and whereas in 1981, the store was purchased by Charlie Stevens, who continued to operate the store as Randolph Jewelers. And whereas in 2019, Randolph Jewelers closed its doors after an 88-year run on historical Main Street and 147 years as a jewelry store. And whereas Randolph Jewelers has become an icon on Main Street as a jewelry store. Now therefore be it resolved by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Placerville, state of California, we offer our appreciation to Charlie Stevens and all those who kept the historical icon present on Main Street in the city of Placerville. And again, it's dated June 28, 2020, and signed by the entire city council. And again, we'll get Kara's signature, so we'll give and take back as well.
All right.
Congratulations.
Give and take back.
Well, no, thank you. That's very nice. I was afraid you were calling me down here to yell at me for signing the Articles of Incorporation for the PDA about 35 years ago. got the first contract with the city too. So, but in any event, no, it's great. I'm very honored by this, and I'm happily retired. I'm very happy to tell you that the renovation on my old building is underway, and it will reopen as a jewelry store, and it will be under the ownership of a young man I've known for a very long time, and whom I have great confidence that you will regard him as an asset to this community. So it'll keep going. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie.
I'd like to add
Comments from,
something, yeah.
yes.
I just want to also mention of Charlie's participation in in supporting the city of Placerville. He's done a lot of committee work and everything, and I just, I want to thank you for all that too.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I was there. I was sitting when they first built that dais. I was here on the planning commission.
You did a lot for this city.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would also like to echo Patty's sentiments as well. I know I've been on Main Street for about 37 years also, and I've gone way back with you. And thank you for starting PDA, because that was and hopefully will be a great organization moving forward as well. And it served downtown well over many years in supporting our merchants. And that was and I know why you did it, and it was a good reason to do it. And you know, one of the things Charlie doesn't like the limelight very much. He tends to operate in the shadows. And what I mean by that is he has supported so many organizations. He's, you know, there wasn't a fundraiser growing up on Main Street that he did not provide a beautiful piece of jewelry for an auction item. Support, I know right alongside the pharmacy and many other merchants downtown, he has always supported people when they come into his place and look for a donation of one thing or another. And it's businesses like yours, Charlie, that continue to continue to fund our baseball programs, our sports programs, whether it's the high school, the grade schools. You pick your high school and school, your names have been on there for years. And the amount of money that you have contributed and given back to this community is a real tribute to also those customers that have enjoyed your services as well. I can't begin to tell you how important businesses like yours are to this community, and I want to express my appreciation for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It was a mutual beneficial relationship for a good long time. Very proud to have been here and contributed a little bit to the place. Thank you very much.
Charlie, if I could just thank you also, echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Thank you for all the time that you did spend behind the scenes and out in front on the various city committees and projects over all the years. Congratulations, and happy to hear that you are happily retired. And thank you also for demonstrating your continued stewardship, for carefully working to find the correct owner for that building and for that site to continue as a jewelry store is a part of your legacy to Main Street. So thank you again for being a part of that ongoing history.
All right. Well, thanks all of you.
Thank you. Okay, move to item 6.4, proclamation declaring March 7th, 2020 as Eldo Post Community Day of Action for Human Trafficking Awareness. And I have this one as well. So will Joy and Rich come up to the podium as well? And I had the chance to meet with both of them a couple of weeks ago and got some good information, and so we'll let them talk about that in a little bit here. So I'll go through, there's a lot of whereases on this one, so I may cut a couple here. Yep. A proclamation of the City Council of the City of Placerville declaring March 7th, 2020 as Eldo Post Community Day of Action. Whereas human trafficking, whether labor trafficking or sex trafficking, is both an international as well as a local issue affecting men, women, and children throughout the United States, California, and in El Dorado County. And whereas California Civil Code Section 52.6 mandates that certain categories of businesses post notices as specified regarding slavery and human trafficking, and whereas with the assistance of human trafficking survivors, a coalition of anti-trafficking organizations based in Sacramento County, designed a poster that complies with the requirements of California Civil Code 52.6 for most counties in California, including El Dorado County. The poster prominently displays the number for the National Human Trafficking Hotline, which is intended to be a lifeline for those who are and have been in trafficking situations, as well as a resource for community members. And whereas Sacramento County-based anti-trafficking organizations created a poster outreach campaign, now known as Hotline Post, based on Civil Code Section 52.6, and have been holding Hotline Post Community Days of Actions in Sacramento County since 2014. And whereas in 2019, the Sacramento Metropolitan Lions Club joined nonprofit organizations and concerned residents to continue the Hotline Post campaign in Sacramento. The campaign has since expanded to become a project sanctioned by Lions Clubs International, covering Sacramento, Yolo, El Dorado, Placer, Nevada, and Sierra counties. And whereas in 2019, Placerville Lions Club joined the Sacramento Metropolitan Lions Club to show its commitment to working on this issue locally. And whereas Placerville Lions Club is hosting Eldo Post, which stands for El Dorado County Poster Outreach to Stop Trafficking, Day of Action on March 7th, 2020, to train volunteers on human trafficking and the posting law so that they can visit local businesses later that day to raise awareness of human trafficking and to encourage the posting of the Civil Code Section 52.6 posters. And whereas the El Dorado County and the city of Placerville recognize the importance of community education and awareness to address human trafficking in El Dorado County, and now therefore be it resolved that the city of Placerville of El Dorado County does hereby recognize March 7th, 2020 as the first Eldo Post Community Day of Action and encourage all businesses to post the Civil Code Section 52.6 human trafficking hotline posters. And it's dated January 28th, 2020, and signed by the City Council. Thank you both.
We've been hearing in the news, international news, the words of human trafficking, and we were shocked when we realized that that's not just an international thing or big city thing or, you know, in New York or whatever. It's all over, and especially California, it is a major problem. But what was also so exciting, it's one thing to hear about that kind of underside that really bubbles up to bite us in too many ways. It was exciting to hear about a program that has been worked out, the bugs have been worked out, of how to have a positive influence on this, and that's about the Hotline Post. To be able to get the word out for citizens in the community to feel like that they have learned about it but are making a positive impact, and to reach out a hand to those people who are touched by human trafficking or know somebody that has been or is being or maybe is, to reach out a helping hand so they can get the help that they need and they well deserve.
And so far, we've been very fortunate to get community support as sponsors, including Mayor and the former Mayor, Wendy, have joined as sponsorships. And our primary sponsor is from Three Strands Global International Foundation in El Dorado Hills. And that's where a example of trafficking occurred in 2008, which was the catalyst that started Three Strands. And so that young lady was sold and trafficked in the Bay Area for 8 days straight until the sheriff was able to rescue her. So it happens close to home. Thank you.
And let me just say, Three Strands has developed a program that includes that rehabilitating of dealing with, of getting employment, of helping, giving them the social supports that they need. to get them back into the community in a safe way, in a way that they can then become a contributor to the community. And their needs are so wide and varied, but their love for it and for those people is just so huge. The other thing I would say too is that we're with the Placerville Lions, and this is one of the projects that we're taking on, and we encourage anyone to join us on March 7th. Pre-registering is very much required, and we guide, and somebody who knows much more than we do will be guiding us through that day. Any questions?
Joy, do you want to give the time on the 7th, as well as where people can go and sign up online?
Yes, we have a flyer that we can, leave a few copies of here that has the URL, the web page address, where you go to do your registration. And on March 7, for those that are already pre-registered, our day of outreach begins at 10 o'clock at the Eschaton Placerville office up on Blair's Lane in the village center. And we'll be there and getting trained from probably 10 until 12, and then the outreach to businesses is from 12 to 2.
Thank you. Any comments from council? All right. Thank you. Thank you both. All right, we're moving on to item 7. These are public comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda, but that is within the subject matter and jurisdiction of the city council. So first, I'll start with written communication 7.1. Cleve, did we have any written communications?
Mayor and Council, you have one item of written communication that I will share with you. It's regarding item 12.1 or 2. I'm trying to remember which one it is. 12.2. And it's from Sue Rodman, who was unable to attend tonight. So.
Thank you, Cleve. Okay, I will move on to oral communications, item 7.2. So anyone that wishing to address the council on a non-agendized item. Good evening, Judy.
Good evening, Mayor and friends and family. Judy Puttoff. I'd like to indulge about 4 minutes of time, if I may. There's a saying that perception is reality. Certainly it seems that's the base of the political wrangling going on in Washington, D.C. today. Closer to home, the perception is that Broadway maybe doesn't really deserve a lot of attention by the city, and that's been demonstrated twice in this month. First, in the decision to grant a license for a medical marijuana dispensary in the former Chuck's location, and second, to declare Broadway a site for legal homeless encampment. In addressing the second decision, everyone knows how vocal I've been about the challenges we have on Broadway. Because services are there, individuals who are contributing nothing to society flood into the area. The success of Hangtown Haven created an influx of individuals who did not have the same intent to better their lives as those campers did. Why do we think this will be any different? On the first decision regarding the Chuck's Cannabis Collective, the perception is that the ordinance drawn up by the city and its agents was designed to be site-specific. If it wasn't, why is it worded to say that a dispensary could not be located near a youth center, children's playground, or athletic field, but other youth-attracting locations would be excluded from consideration? The ordinance reads, "This definition shall not include any private martial arts, yoga, ballet, music, art studio, private gym, pizza parlor, etc." Curious, isn't it? What do we have near the Chuck's location? We have a kids' dance studio across the street, and next to that, Taekwondo, a kids' gym just up the street that also serves disabled children, and Pizza Factory, which hosts scores of kids' parties. And why is the Chuck's name being used? It's clever. I knew the Batch family. They were friends with mine. I think we were shirt-tail relatives. I watched Charlie build his successful Frosty business in what is now Shoestrings. I would take my dog in the summer to go get a Frosty there. That led to his successful business, which ran for 50 years. I find the use of his name to be offensive. Let's go to Chuck's. Won't have the same meaning. My Keep Broadway Kid-Friendly campaign has garnered support from Broadway businesses, and our online petition and Facebook posts have received dozens of signatures. And what are we doing to improve Broadway? For our part in this last year at Hangtown Village Square, which we opened 40 years ago this March, we celebrated a remodel of McDonald's. We upgraded our buildings with new metal roofs at a cost of nearly $200,000. And we proudly opened the city's only electric vehicle charging hub with both ChargePoint and Tesla stations. In addition, we spend tens of thousands of dollars a year to discourage and control vagrants on our property. I make a distinction between those people who are homeless through little fault of their own with those who are homeless through their actions. I don't think anybody, any other property owner, does what we do, or the extent that we take to maintain our properties. 3 years ago, our partners purchased the Save Mart property with the goal of upgrading that 60-year-old store. It's an uphill battle, but we're invested big time on Broadway for the long term. Despite my protest over the dispensary being located on Broadway, I'm a realist. This is a done deal. Nothing I say or do will change it. But I'm not going away quietly. I've talked about perception, but I also know that you are all terrific people. You're friends of mine. I know your goodwill. So how about you do something to show all of us on Broadway that you care? Here's an idea. Provided in the cannabis ordinance is the requirement for community benefit funds. I am asking that those funds from the Chuck's Collective be used exclusively for the benefit of Broadway. Civic Lab is identifying projects. How about helping with those, for example? There's a lot of us on Broadway that have been there a long time and really care about that part of the city. We feel part of the city. Please let us continue to feel part of the city. Show us you care, send us some love, and we will appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Good evening, Mayor Saragosa. I have to learn how to say that, and members of the council. Kathy Lishman, City of Placerville. I'm here tonight representing the League of Women Voters, and I had some flyers at home, but I ran off without them. I wanted to make sure that everybody, even people watching on TV and in the audience and the staff, know that we are going to have a candidate forum for District 3 Supervisor next Friday, February 7th. Now we have different times on different ones. It's either 6:30 or 7 o'clock. I'm sorry, I didn't bring my flyer. Because we have a forum also for District 2 and District 1. I would like to thank the city who generously offered this room at no cost to the League of Women Voters. Just so people know, District 3 includes Diamond Springs, El Dorado, Camino, and Placerville, 4 of our really historic communities. And so I'd like to invite people to come and to get to know the candidates. And the way that the League does it is passes out 3x5 cards. The audience gets to write their questions on the cards. One of the members of the League sorts the questions and gives them to the moderator, and the moderator reads the questions. So I think it's from 7 to 8. I do apologize, but anyway, thank you, and please get the word out. And I meant to bring flyers so people could share them with others. It's important to come and get to know who your candidates are. And I also wanted to say, coming across Highway 50 tonight into town, the Christmas white lights that are still left up there are certainly an inviting way to welcome people to town. It makes a really nice ambiance. It's like you're in someone's backyard. So I hope they stay up. Thanks very much.
Kathy, it's at 7.
Thank you very much. My guess was that it was from 7 to 8.
Yep. Check real fast.
Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Bye.
Good evening.
Good evening. Could I share a little something before my time begins?
Sure. What, if you, do you want to?
I wanted to speak about this, but Terry's familiar with it.
Sure.
Those are some before and after pictures of what I'd like to speak about briefly today.
Thanks, Chief.
Mayor and council members, thank you so much for your time. And before I begin speaking about my 3-minute presentation, I wanted to express from TLC, from the Lighted Candle, some thanks from 1,126 Facebook group members for City Manager Morris and Mayor Zaragoza for your kind acceptance of our offer to come visit the 14 Forward facility in Marysville in about 2 weeks. And I'm excited to see both of you there and invite any other city representatives who want to go and find out what Yuba County and Sutter County is doing about their homeless problem and get some ideas about how we can apply it here in this area. That's the whole point of the tour that we arranged. So thank you very much for accepting that invitation.
I've signed up for it too. I've signed up for it too.
Awesome. Look forward to seeing you, Patty. Thank you. So I briefly wanted to come here. I should have written Cleve and put an agenda item, but anyway, about trash pickup and homeless camp issues. Let me just start by saying, if you are homeless, you probably can't afford to go out and buy trash bags. If you are homeless, you definitely cannot afford and don't have regular trash pickup service from anybody. And if you're homeless, you can't afford to take your trash even if you had those things to the dump and pay the dump fees that they have. So 5 or 6 months ago, the Lighted Candle decided to initiate a pilot project, which we have been doing and we're still doing. The photos here, I'll leave this with Terry, and you can look at them later, a set of before and after pictures of our bi-weekly trash cleanup project that we have going in a limited area right now along North Broadway in a couple locations. And the whole point of our project is we provide the bags, we provide motivation, and get our clients, our new friends who are homeless campers, invested in the idea that there's another way, a better way, and if they and that we will help them with the resources if they're willing to change some habits. And together we're finding that this is working marvelously. So far, the results have been stunning and absolutely repeating every single 2 weeks we go out there. Instead of trash scattered along a hillside, it's collected, it's aggregated in a spot. So, a large portion, probably most of the public, is unaware that this aggregate of trash here is actually a beneficial thing. They may say, oh, that disgusting pile of trash here, but actually that's the alternative to having it scattered across a hillside, and then you have to go in and have a hazmat situation. So I am here hoping that the city will move forward with some collaboration again with us. We do great things together. We've proven it in the past, and I'd like to do it again. We need some financial assistance to continue with this biweekly trash pickup program that we're doing for homeless camps. And I'd like to expand it to other areas now that we've proven the concept. There's an invoice here that that we've paid, but I wanted you all to see it so you can see that it's not free. We pay approximately $250 a month to El Dorado Disposal for dump fees. That's something that TLC and its donors have been paying. It's city property that we've been voluntarily cleaning up. I'm hoping that the city will help us out here so that we can continue. We will have the manpower. We will provide people with the trucks, with the bags. We will take care of all of that. I'm just asking the city to consider helping us financially so we can continue that project and maybe implement it in some other areas as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on a non-agendized item? Yeah, if you state your name for the record.
Yes. My name is Francois Hughes. I'm a creative executive for a transient newspaper which is privately published by the homeless for the homeless. I went ahead and I'm going to read an excerpt that we're releasing today. 1 second. Okay. I apologize. Damn it. 1 second.
It's okay.
Tonight, as we go to the mat, City Council at 6 p.m., after a quick cordoning off of some of the parts of the mountain or hill adjacent to Broadway near Upper Room, police are telling homeless to vacate verbally, by no formal or ethical means. It is effective 7 a.m. tomorrow. It is the deadline. Martin versus Boise applies to here because it is illegal for any law enforcement to ask a homeless person to vacate public property, only to move on to find new public property. As decided by the 9th District Court of Appeals, 1 second, I'm sorry, in California, some did not get warning just hours ago. They had their camp completely demolished, thrown away all their personal belongings, and leveled camp, again without any notification. I know this as it is my home, which was destroyed. I am currently compiling an inventory of lost items, as well as searching for where I may rest my head tonight. There is a protocol to the process. I hope they can meet it. They haven't yet so far. In fact, they've met the protocol of a 9-year-old bully. In that 39-page disposition, there is a precedent in law mentioned that will hold law enforcement liable for all lost property. So all the damages affected, I employ all those who living on that hill to take inventory of their surroundings. This is the transient newspaper. It's a page. I can give you the address. It's a Facebook page, a transient newspaper. Ultimately, I appreciate you not tearing down Vets Hall. I remember that. But tomorrow morning, you'll be tearing down the home of a lot of vets. Okay? I implore you to look at it, and there is a protocol. Please let us know. I found out an hour ago that my campus is destroyed. And I love what this city does. It's an amazing city, and you guys are great. And we don't exist because we don't have anything to offer the world. We exist because we just hit a little speed bump. Okay? I'm currently not homeless, I don't think, because I have friends. But thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan Gainsborough, almost a 30-year El Dorado County resident, Mayor Sargosa, City Council. Last City Council, the council unanimously approved its new camping ordinance, restricting, totally unconstitutionally and illegally, restricting the homeless to 3 sites in the entire square mileage of the city of Placerville. The U.S. Supreme Court recently refused to even hear an appeal
of Martin Boise. It doesn't matter what your city attorney says, because the Boise attorneys became a national laughingstock when Martin Boise was backed up by the Ninth Federal District Court. The Federal District Western Section District Court has refused to allow the homeless to be treated as lepers, as rubbish, as non-human beings, as not your citizens who are as valuable as the lady here from Broadway who got 2 extra minutes. I hope that you will give me the same grace. This week, the $4.5 million bike path that we cannot afford any other expenses in the city, started ribboning trees along North Broadway, which is one of the 3 sites promised by the city, to your constituency and to the homeless. The police started threatening them that they would have to be moved out by Thursday or they would be illegally removed. I want to move along here. And their possessions. I want to remind you that in Sacramento, $350,000 fine was assessed to the city, and $250,000 fine they had to pay for disrespecting the homeless's property. That will happen here. Let's disagree agreeably and treat the homeless as you would want to be treated if you had a hard run in part of your life. The bike path construction is not scheduled to begin until April. But meanwhile, the homeless, the nomadic shelter covers them, as I've told you the last 2 months, but Tuesday night and Wednesday night are still uncovered. Tonight, the homeless are in the rain. I wanted to bring you one of the homeless that slept under mosquito overpass last week, and he not only is a widower, but homeless, congestive heart failure, and because of the rain, he went to your hospital with flu and pneumonia. I'm closing here. A spokesman for the Broadway homeless has said that they're willing to vacate the hill during the day if their personal safety is a matter of concern. That entire hill is not being moved. It still can be usable as a refuge and a place for restoration and showing your love and compassion for the homeless. We cannot sweep them away as the modern lepers. Someday you might be one. Is Placerville, I'm closing, is Placerville to be known as the city that leaves its homeless out in the freezing winter months, not only with no shelter or warm place to stay, but adding inhumane insult to injury, illegally criminalizing its homeless with no current safe area? We want you out, but we can't tell you where to go. Closing, our Lord Jesus Christ says this to me and to you, every one of you. We will stand before him someday. I was hungry and thirsty, and you gave me to drink. I was homeless, and you sheltered me, and you took me in out of the cold. Let's love the homeless the way that our Lord God has blessed each of us so mightily. God bless you. Amen.
Thank you. State your name for the record.
My name is Deanne Palmer. So once again, my name is Deanne Palmer, formerly homeless here in El Dorado County. I felt lost and broken for almost 6 years. I saw no way out. Toward the end of my stint on the streets, I got married, pregnant, and even more scared because now I had a child in a tent, so I truly thought was going to happen. TLC kept my husband's work uniforms clean. My husband's a local landscaper. He began working to help us get off the streets. TLC gave us support and great advice and many useful life lessons. They helped us create a plan to ultimately be able to help ourselves. They taught us to clean up our areas so that we could remain in our camps. They also gave us the needed supplies to do so. As TLC grows and the possibilities for overall for the overall homeless population has true promise. Future Showers, the ideas that stem from this organization truly amazes me and inspires our family to give back to our people. My husband and I volunteer throughout the homeless community currently in hopes to not leave anybody feeling the way that we once did. All that TLC has brought to my family, I will always be grateful for, and I would appreciate the council and everybody supporting TLC and other organizations that help the homeless. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danny Palmer, formerly homeless. TLC actually did a lot for us since I was actually homeless for 14 years. TLC helped me out by making sure that my clothes were done. TLC, the whole trash pickup, if it wasn't for their trash pickup, you know, we would have trash everywhere, laying all over the streets, everything. And if and for TLC to pull out of their own pockets to turn around and help us, and not knowing who we are and just giving us a chance, you know, we would have people walking around grungy, nobody wanting to give them the work, making them feel even worse. You know, what TLC does for everybody out here is actually making this whole community actually look a whole lot better. Cleaning up old camps that have, like over by the bridge, when by that barbecue place, you know, cleaning up that whole area. It made it, you actually see a stream now, and it makes it a nice place to actually look, sit down, maybe have a lunch, take your family, you know. So if it would help, you know, we would like to make sure, you know, giving back to our community is the only way that we are able to prove that we can stay off the streets. You know, TLC is the way to do it. They pull out of their own pocket to help us. I think our community should be able to help them out to help us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jane McGinnis, and I want to address the issue of the camping ordinance that was passed at the last council meeting. I believe it poses a potential threat for Placerville. I understand you relied on legal advice that the ordinance as passed would meet the requirements set forth in the recent decision by the Ninth Circuit. The thread that runs continually through that decision is shelter, referred to on page 3 of the court's publication as sleeping indoors. The court also refers to shelter as a 24-hour-a-day accommodation. Available open space outdoors with permission to sleep until sunrise will not rise to the level of shelter in this court's decision. This would make the camping ordinance dangerous to enforce. By trying to resolve this difficult issue in Placerville without providing a structure with beds and sanitary facilities available 24 hours a day, 365 a year, this new camping ordinance may have created what could be the perfect test case for litigation. Because Martin v. Boise rests on an issue of civil rights, you would find yourself opposed by the Department of Justice, which is tasked with such enforcement. The DOJ is always careful to pick cases they are very confident of winning, and usually assisted by amicus briefs from groups like the ACLU or the Center for Law and Justice. Now, I understand that you have a legal opinion that you relied upon in passing this ordinance, and I am not saying in any way that that was inferior or incorrect. The problem is, for every attorney with an opinion, there are 9 more just itching to disagree with it. And that's what creates litigation. Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. That's the system. A reference was made in the last meeting that sheltering the homeless would require tax increases. The legal costs of being the loser in a civil rights lawsuit, especially a class action lawsuit, it just doesn't bear thinking about. There aren't enough tax dollars to be able to lose such a lawsuit. I am pleading with the council for all of us, for you, for the public, for the city that you work so hard to take care of. Seek further legal advice. Get different attorneys who have differing opinions. That's what they do, to offset and give you a full picture. Rescind this ordinance and partner with our local faith-based groups to form a working task force on how to meet the actual requirements of this new reality we face under the Ninth Circuit decision. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, council members. Tammy Dans, Clay Street. Just want to address the Clay Street Cottonwood extension that's coming up. Once again, want to encourage some traffic calming measures, especially with, upcoming apartments, more traffic. We already have a traffic issue. Hard signage would really be great. We've all talked about different ideas. Reminders, stop signs one way, no right turns. Secondly, the guardrail. A few meetings ago, Mark Acuna, we talked about the guardrail integrity on Clay Street in Franklin that has been compromised. Not sure if city maintenance has a guardrail crew. I'm pretty sure they don't, but the integrity is completely gone. My kids, grandkids are playing in the backyard. There's no integrity, rainy. People driving too fast, and there's nothing left the guardrail. They can come through my fence, and that could be really scary. And they could the car could actually probably reach my backyard, our bedrooms. Thirdly, I'd like to thank Placerville PD for their continuing upkeeping and keeping the Placerville bus station under control. I need not to really go any further with that. Our children are catching buses there, grandchildren are catching buses there, and so I just really appreciate it. And we have webcams that are in the bus station. They're only, I believe, to the transit right now, transit station and PD department. When they first put those in, the idea was to also have at least one webcam available for the public. I would really encourage that. A lot of people would be interested in seeing what their kids are doing down there, waiting for the bus. Anyways, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Ed Ingram. I'm Tammy's husband. Just briefly, I know we had met before, Mayor, with that you were going to be the head for the traffic calming measure for Clay Street. I'm not sure if you still are that or if you passed that on with your new seat at the council here. If you have, maybe get in contact with us later and see who that person is going to be. And also, like my wife said, with this new extension of Cottonwood Clay Street home development, the calming traffic measures, probably we really should look into it more further with the additional traffic that's going to be held, because I didn't see all of the extension measures is going to be happening, but I didn't see any kind of a alternate route for that development, which could be used like Poverty Hill to Bedford or something to relieve some of that traffic on Clay Street. So if you have another member that's taken over that portion of it, you could let us know. And some of the neighborhood residents up there have gotten mailers of information of that extension. We had not gotten anything, so I don't know if it's for the whole community area or not, but we had not received anything. If there's anything in the future with that, we'd really like to see some of the comments and be able to respond to that, if you would.
Thank you. Try to get some information on that one.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ryan Norton.
I'm a supporter and proud volunteer for TLC, the Lighted Candle, who many people have spoke for today. I'd just like to express my support for them and encourage the council to provide funding for them for various projects. I've seen their efforts work. This morning I volunteered with a group of local homeless and volunteers together who cleaned up a portion of I think Upper Broadway. I mean, we must have filled thousands of pounds of trash in the trailer that we had there. So they really make a big difference, and they really do a good job at inspiring members of the homeless community to kind of change their lifestyle and have a more positive impact on our community. I know that Danny and Deanne Palmer are really grateful for the things that TLC has done for them. I would also like to point out that they have given back a tremendous amount and have taken it upon themselves to make a difference in our community as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments tonight? Yes.
Hi, my name is Lana Shaver, and I usually get tongue-tied, so I'm not a public speaker. But I am a member, and very proudly so, of TLC, the Lighted Candle. I am one of the people that does the laundry. And I can say from personal experience of about a year now, getting up Saturday morning at 6 o'clock to go set up the trailer has been a real eye-opener for me. And we have seen changes in the homeless that we have come in contact. We've seen betterment. We've seen them clean up things and be responsible. And genuinely give back. So it's not an all take. It is a give back. And I'm really proud of these people. And I'm proud of all of the volunteers that we have. And if we can get more volunteers, that's great. But I really think that the homeless situation is going to be solved by community. I don't think federal government's going to solve it. I don't think any of that's going to solve it. I think people, hand to hand, are going to solve it. And if you think for 1 minute that you can't be vulnerable yourself, please think again. Nobody is born saying, gee, I think it would be a great idea to be homeless. There are all different reasons and scenarios for being homeless. And it's not just drug addiction. And I'm a nurse, so I can say that, okay? One medical crisis for you, one dissolving marriage for you, you might be very well-to-do. And if you end up being single, you're not so well-to-do anymore. And one small crisis can change it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments tonight? All right, seeing none. Oh, you got a couple more. All right.
Hi, my name is Maureen Delap, a resident of Placerville and also a member of TLC. And I just wanted to review the actual El Dorado County homeless population count that was completed in the last week of January of 2019. It was a survey that was done by the Applied Survey Research with the help of Only Kindness, the El Dorado Sheriff's Department, the Placerville Police Department, Green Valley Church, and the Upper Room. And I wanted to quickly highlight some of the facts that I thought were important, because I see online a lot of stigma. I see a lot of things people say the homeless are being shipped up here from other counties, the homeless aren't even from here, and things like that. So I just wanted to say that this is a survey that was done here by our local community, and 47% of our homeless community are residents of our community, have been residents of the community. I encourage everybody to look at this survey because it says 82% of the homeless are here on the Western Slope versus 18% in South Lake Tahoe, and it talks about how many people have mental health issues. There was somebody here that says that there are not contributing members to the community, which is just mind-blowing to me because, as Lana already mentioned, I do the laundry also, and to have somebody say something like that is just mind-blowing. People need to open their eyes because anything can happen at any point in time to anybody, and I've seen it with some people. I've seen it with people I've worked with. I see it with people every day. You see it. I know somebody at the grocery store who's very close, and the mindset needs to change. And the other mindset that needs to change is it doesn't have to be faith-based. It needs to be the city, the citizens of the city. It doesn't have to be just the faith-based community and just the nonprofits. It needs to be everybody all together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Lancaster. I've never done this before. I don't like speaking in public either, but I would like to just back up what everyone else who are also my friends that I have grown to become, very fond of since moving here. I myself am homeless. The clothes that I'm wearing right now were washed by TLC. And I would just like to encourage each and every one of you to actually get to know people who are homeless rather than judging them as a whole and as one structure, looking at them and their individual lives and their uniqueness instead of just as one person and one entity, because we're not. I have gone to college. I've spent 6 years trying to get a degree off and on, but due to circumstances in my life, I am the place that I am at, and I have to accept that every single day, and I have to deal with criticism from the public on days where I don't look as nice as I do today. But today I can be thankful and say that I had a job interview today at a very reputable company, and it looks like I'm getting the job. Thank you. But what Lana was saying and what Mo was saying was that every single person has something different in their life that causes them to be in the situation that they are. Me personally, I have lost many, many people in my life, and I have almost been raped many times, and lots of different things have happened to me to cause me to be in the situation that I am today. I don't want to be here. I do not choose to be here. I want to have a home again. I want to have my life built back again, but I'm doing it and I'm fighting tooth and nail every single day. And it's not because I'm addicted to drugs or anything like that. It's just because of situation, And so I guess what I'm just trying to say is I would encourage all of you to look at each person as individuals and not as one whole. And to consider that maybe a bike path is not as valuable as a person's life. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments tonight? All right, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment portion. I think there might have been a couple of issues raised in terms of homeless discussion. I don't know if staff has any comments. I think there was one on sort of moving people from, I think, camp, and then their belongings.
Right. Maybe the chief can respond to that a little bit. There were some notices that have been given. It's due to the tree clearing that is going on in preparation for the Upper Broadway Bike Lanes project. And it's, we've instructed the police department to only move out of those areas that are affected by the tree clearing, nothing more. But it is for the safety of the individuals too. If there's going to be tree falling, we want to make sure that they are safe. And so that is the project that is there. I believe the police department is following the guidelines that we would for anyone. It's a different issue than the camping ordinance. This is due to a construction project that is in that area. So.
Okay, thank you. Chief, I don't know if you want to add anything?
Other than I was going to say, we've explicitly instructed our staff to not enforce the camping ordinance until it becomes effective on, I believe, the 14th of February. So it's not, anybody that is being asked to move it, like as the city manager said, is for their safety. It is not related to the ordinance.
Okay.
What about their belongings?
Chief, can you address how their belongings are being handled?
I don't have that information with me right now, no. But if they are being moved, their belongings are being held either at the police department or the Public Works Corp yard. I haven't heard specifics on that.
Okay, thank you, Chief. And then there was also on Clay Street in terms of a guardrail. I don't know if there's something we can look at that may have lost its.
Yeah, we missed that last time. I apologize to the Ingrams, but we will look into that and find out what's going on with that. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
There almost always is continuous questions regarding the qualifications of the legal review that was taking place. Well, I think we probably at this point read the entire decision by one person or another. Mr. Driscoll, do you have any concerns from any of the comments this evening?
Well, let me first say that, sure, she's right. Very seldom will two lawyers agree on anything. But I can tell you that I think what we're seeing is a misinterpretation of the Boise case. The Boise case does not say that the city has to provide shelter. It says you cannot prohibit the homeless when there's no shelter available, as is defined in that case by when no shelter is available. You cannot cite them for sleeping in a public place. You cannot keep them out of all public places. It doesn't say that you can't keep them out of some public places, though, under those circumstances. It's very clear. The decision says that you can restrict areas, you just can't restrict all of the areas. It's not just my opinion. I've read a number of treatises and analyses of the Boise case, and this is what they all say. So it's not just one attorney who's coming up with that. These are things I've read from others. The difficulty being that the Boise case doesn't also give you a lot of guidelines, other than those very rudimentary ones.
Doesn't give any particular side any guidelines.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear somebody from the audience.
Please, public comments closed. Please keep your comments. We gave everybody a chance to speak. Thank you.
Does that empower either camp, I was using a bad pun, the proponents or those that oppose this camping ordinances? There's you could go ahead and apply it as you wish to, but at the same time, the fact that it doesn't give a lot of clarity doesn't give anybody any clarity.
That's correct. That's correct. Those ambiguities go
either side of
ways.
this issue is still ambiguous. So opinions are what they are.
We're not the only jurisdiction that has an ordinance similar to ours. The city of Reading has one very similar to ours.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Yes.
Just a little bit further clarification. The tree cutting that's going on is a CEQA requirement. The contractors are required to remove trees at specific times of year. This is that time of year. We have no choice. That has nothing to do with any homeless activity or city roadway detour, etc. It is purely a fact of state regulations when tree removal work is done. It has to do with environmental regulations and protecting nesting birds. So that work has to be done at this time of the year. That project will ultimately lead to a massive improvement to pedestrian safety, something that I've heard for over 20 years, a demand for. The entire population's safety is at risk at the current roadway. So I would think we need to be a little smart about where our concern lies there. I'd like to ask the chief if he knows if our officers went out and threatened campers, or if they went out and notified campers that they were going to have to leave for their own safety.
Knowing my staff and confident in how they address the public, I am confident it was a warning notice, not a threat. Our officers don't engage in that, and as I have outlined here many times for council and staff, there's always compassion and trying to direct them into the services that are necessary. So, but without knowing the specifics, I'm still going to confidently say our staff did the right thing.
An officer under your command would be expected to do that in a respectful manner. Is that true, Chief?
Absolutely. That is a normal, ongoing direction, and message that we in the leadership of the police department send to our officers. They know our expectations, and if there is a concern, citizens are welcome to file a complaint at the police department. It will be fully investigated. It should be noted that all of our officers have body-worn cameras that record all of their interactions with the public, and we review those regularly.
Thank you, Chief, and I appreciate that. And I for one, don't appreciate, the word threat versus it. Certainly no one wants to have to move their stuff, but the officer didn't threaten. I mean, let's be realistic. If I might be allowed one more minute, because it's frustrating to hear 40-some minutes of public comment on an issue that we don't have the resources to deal with. We don't have the staff, we don't have the money, we don't have the facilities. We are, as one person said, the community needs to solve this problem. And no matter how big you think we are in this problem, we are just one sliver of this entire community. We are one of however many churches and other facilities that do exist that are locked and closed tonight to everyone. I would wonder if these folks go and talk to those boards at the churches and the leadership groups of the various churches that continue to be closed in this community, closed every single night. Why does the lack of these other parts of the community failing to participate fall into us? Certainly welcome the comments, and we want to make sure that we're doing the correct thing. We have an entire city to protect, and we have a whole lot of voters that expect us to protect every inch of the city property for everybody's enjoyment. So it's a very difficult position, and I, for one, didn't appreciate being painted as uncaring or unknowing or unconcerned. You have no idea what goes on in my life either, and it's been very stressful lately. But to think that the city somehow, because all of these other groups aren't approachable or fail to respond or aren't friendly to go talk to, the city then has to pick up that void, just isn't correct. We are going to do what we can, but it's very, very small. We are not a big city in that sense. And we'll do what we can for our citizens. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not an agenda item. I appreciate that time.
Thanks, Mark, and I appreciate your comments, especially as it pertains to the the limited time that we have on when we can do tree cutting per environmental rules. Patty, did you want to?
I just wanted to say that, and I think what, I'm going to address what Mark just said, but I think that these folks that are here tonight, they're addressing us for leadership. And I think that we do diligence in working with everybody I think we've done our utmost in working with the lighted candle, in working with everything that's been mentioned. And so that's how we function for our leadership role. Mark is right that we have limited funds, but yet we also have access through our police department, through our the groups that are trying to help all these folks. And I do think that we do a good job in coordinating it and go maybe over and above, again, that folks don't realize all that our staff and we offer suggestions. We get calls, and then we have the other side of the issue of folks that are, and the one lady talked about accusations and stuff, and we have some pretty angry constituents that we also have to, acknowledge. But I guess I'm going to pat us on the back and saying we are trying, and we're open to all the suggestions. And I don't like hearing our attorney constantly being belittled and that he doesn't know what he's talking about, because he does. And he's giving you his legal opinion, and he gives us his legal opinion, and that's who we follow. We have to. We can't just go off willy-nilly saying, well, that isn't what they really meant. I hear that too much from national headquarters. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in, that we do provide leadership for the community, and I think we are addressing all the issues. The wheels turn slowly, but we're trying, so.
Thank you, Patty. I'll just make a brief comment. I want to thank everybody for coming out and speaking. I know it's not an easy thing to do, to come. I know a lot of you is first time speaking, so thank you for that. But likewise for all my colleagues, I think everyone here is trying to do their best and come to try to find solutions to, as everyone's mentioned, a global problem. Certainly a state of California problem, and more to come. I know this is not agendized, so we won't go any further than that, but just wanted to make a quick comment. Thank you, everybody. Cleve, give one more.
Just one more clarification. It was mentioned, I believe, early on by one of the commenters that we had designated certain areas and encampment areas. We have not done that. In the establishment of our camping ordinance, we were simply asked, are there any areas that does not prohibit this? And we named a couple of areas where they could potentially go and be in compliance with our camping ordinance. But we are not designating those as
But it has not been
encampment
established
areas.
yet?
Well, they're not. There are no areas that we're designating specifically. This is where they're encampment areas. There are just public areas that meet the requirement of where they could go to. So we're not designating and saying this is where we're going to send you to.
Okay.
But there are areas
Because
that
I do think that there's several folks have talked to me about it.
there are certain areas, and they've talked to me too. There are certain areas that meet the requirements that we have set up in the camping ordinance, that where someone could spend the night.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Cleve. Okay, we're going to move on to our consent calendar. Seems like felt like I already did that, but we haven't. So moving on to item 8, consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote unless one member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. Does any council member wish to remove an item this evening?
I'll move.
No? Does any member of the public wish to comment on any item on the consent calendar? All right, seeing none, I will bring it back to...
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to move approval of the consent.
Okay, we
Second.
have a motion. We have a second. We'll go ahead. Regina, have roll call vote.
Mayor Saragosa?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Acuna?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to item 9, no item for pull from the consent calendar. We do not have any ordinance or public hearings on the calendar tonight, so we're going to move to item 12. Item 12.1, consider participating in Comstock Magazine advertising insert at a cost of $2,000. And city manager has this report.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate it. This item came to me a little over a month ago. I had a meeting with the El Dorado Wine Association, El Dorado County Chamber, and El Dorado County regarding a potential to participate in this program, which is basically an insert that goes into Comstock's magazine. If you're familiar with Comstock magazine, very well read, very well respected, and does a good job. They requested that we consider, they do one of these inserts, I think almost every month, which is an addition to the magazine. And they are looking at potentially the July issue, having El Dorado County, Placerville, the Wine Association, and the El Dorado County Chamber participate in this. Now I want to mention also that it would be in conjunction with Rancho Murrieta, who would be paying half the cost, and then our 4 agencies would pay the other half, is my understanding. So it would be a joint between all of those agencies, all of those groups to produce this. And I've listed in here what some of the benefits of that are. Again, I think most of you have seen Comstock magazine.
It's my favorite magazine.
Your favorite magazine. It is very well done, very well published, and very well read. Good articles. So we would have input on what actually comes out of that. The actual final document is actually done by them, and they have the final say in how that comes out, as they kind of stress that to us. But a lot of input on our end would go into the beginning to make that article. We, as noted, would only receive, they do some extra copies. We would only receive 250 of those between the 4 groups to split up, so not a lot.
That's not enough.
However, we do have the option to print more of those if we would like to. They would give us the copy so that we can print more of those. At this time, I didn't provide a solid recommendation, other than I think it would be a good marketing tool for the city. The question is how we pay for that. It has not been budgeted, as you know. One of my thoughts was, and I want to be careful in how I say this, we do have some funding that we talked about at our last meeting that was funding that previously went to PDA that is for marketing, and so that is a potential for the future. I'm not going to ask you to designate that funding tonight because you asked me to come back with recommendations for that, but if you decide to do that tonight, we will simply state that it would come from our general fund contingency for unforeseen expenditures. And should you decide to make that designation from that other fund in the future, that could be done. But I'm not asking you to do that tonight because we need more time to come up with a recommendation of how that funding might be used. And there are some other choices of how that might be used that we're already looking at. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on this. Again, our share would be $2,000. Each of the 4 agencies would be contributing $2,000. El Dorado County, El Dorado County Chamber, El Dorado Wine Association, and the city would each contribute $2,000 to make up the total that we would be required to do. So,
Thank you,
with
Cleve.
that, I'll answer any questions if I can. I'm not an expert on this, but I'll answer what I can.
Questions from council?
Well, 250 copies would be enough just for Patty, but, because she loves Comstock. It's old school, I like it.
I just think it's
Question.
just a very well done.
I'm trying to figure it out here. How many pages would the entire supplement be?
I believe that it's a 4-page insert. So,
Oh, excuse me,
So
insert.
we would each have 2 pages.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
So,
So the whole, the city, between the chamber, the city, Edwa, and one other,
Chamber of the City, the county.
Rancho Maria.
and Edwa would be splitting up 2 pages.
Yes, Rancho Maria is paying for half, so they would get 2 pages, and then El Dorado County would get 2 pages.
So there's no necessarily advertising going in this, rather we're paying for a article that's basically talking about the city
Correct.
and our community. The county, actually.
The county, yes, yes. We would be part of that, but the county, yes.
So, how do we tie in with Rancho Marietta?
I think what happened is Rancho Murrieta approached the El Dorado Wine Association and wanted to, because they didn't want to do the entire thing. So they approached them, and then the Wine Association approached us to be part of that. So it's just dividing up the cost further.
My concern is how much of this that Placerville is going to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are some pretty, the other folks, I'm just not too sure how much is going to be dedicated to Placerville.
And I can't guarantee that either. I do know
Did you say
that
we have some input? Or?
We do. We will meet with their publisher or their writer who will write this up and put the pictures and et cetera. And we have that right to put the information. My position is that, if you think about El Dorado County and what people like to see in El Dorado County, taking South Lake Tahoe out of that because they're not part of this, you would look at Placerville as one of the main attractions, I think, in El Dorado County. The Wine Association is too, the wineries, et cetera, and they will promote those. But I think that in looking at that in talking to the chamber and the things we do, that you want to get people to come to El Dorado County, you're probably going to talk about Placerville as will be one of the keys.
Are you aware of any of the other organizations that have approved this?
Yes, the chamber, the county, and the Wine Association have all approved it.
Okay.
That's good to know.
I'm a little concerned about too much of the money coming from the BID,
Correct.
considering
Understand.
that is a specific to that business district and not necessarily for marketing all of the community.
Right.
And there's some expectation from those merchants that goes to support that organization or that.
Right. And I was reluctant to even bring that up, but it is potentially something that could be considered. So.
And can you share, who gets the magazines? How is this going to do us any good?
Right.
I'm trying to remember what the distribution is. I'm sorry, I can't tell you that right now. But it is quite largely distributed throughout the Sacramento area, is my understanding. But I
It
don't
is.
have
It is a, you know, they highlight a lot of local attractions, local leaders, business leaders, and a lot of people get that magazine to see if they're in it, honestly.
Yeah, that's true. The philanthropic.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
because they have all the volunteer and the.
I see your picture in it all the
Yeah.
time.
And so
But it is, what I think what I'm wondering, is it just the business, is it the people that are in the magazine all the time? And these are some volunteer groups. I mean, there's hospital groups and there's, all kinds of fundraising groups and stuff. So who gets the magazine? I mean, it's not the average person, I don't think. I don't ever see it in a magazine display or anything like that. A stand.
Right, that's a good question.
Kind of an industry, kind of sort of a.
Yeah, it seems like industry magazine.
Well, and a lot of those people actually that are getting the magazine have disposable income that would be coming up
That
here.
would be
One
coming,
and-
yeah.
And would be exploring
might
our
wanna build a
communities
hotel.
around. Right, exactly. I'm not supporting it one way or the other right now. I'm just trying to, think
Well,
that through with you,
but I
right?
think we're gonna be questioned as to why are you doing this?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yep.
It seems like that's an awful lot, with all those other associations wanting to get their bang for their bucks, and I don't blame them. It's almost like we ought to throw Rancho Murrieta out and just do it between the 4 or 5 of us to get the right. Because if you're going to put this in front of the decision makers and the who's who at the region, that's basically what you're doing. You want to look really good. And I know the wine industry is really anxious to take their marketing efforts up a whole nother notch. So, are we thinking small? We should think a little bigger, perhaps. Dave, could you leave for a minute? I want to spend some more money. Not quite serious, though. I mean, it is going to be really well done. It will be very highbrow, and it will be in front of folks that will come with the discretionary income, with the discretionary investment interests also. You never know what's going to trigger that next person to just say, hey, project time.
I guess maybe what I would recommend from my perspective would be, let's try it this year. If is that successful and goes well, we could consider doing it, on a higher level next year, perhaps.
If there's no other questions right now, I'm going to open it up real fast for public comment, and then we can come back to.
and I, just real quick, there was an article not too long ago, and I don't know which, but I had a reporter from the magazine call me. And I told him a whole bunch of stuff about Placerville. So,
Well, hopefully that was good then.
anyway,
That's your clip.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public comment, if anyone chooses to comment on this issue. All right, it's an easy one tonight.
Sue Roth's not here, so-
Sue's
Yeah,
not
we don't
here,
have Sue, so you guys have to fill in for Sue Roth.
That's right.
yes, Sue's not here.
All right, I will go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the council.
What would you need, direction of staff? Is that what?
Yeah.
I think direction to staff and whether we want to expend the 2,000
would be
from
my
whatever funding pot that might
Well, I
come
think
out
we
of.
have to consider, even though Cleve just kind of threw it, but I think we do have to consider could that be where the money would come from, so that we're not taking it out of
General
a
fund.
general fund.
Dennis brings up a good point as well, though, about the expectation of keeping that money, those funds within the central business district.
How about
May I intervene in that? I think that Councilmember Thomas's point's really a good one, because it's collected
Oh, yeah.
from that area, paid for by those merchants.
Or by that park.
So if the advertising was directed at that area and focused on that, then it'd probably be okay. But if it's not focused on that area where the money is collected, then I think it probably should come from a different source.
In other words, if we talk about Goldbug
least
Park,
one
that's not
Yeah,
going to fly.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I agree, and I understand that. My only thought was, when I looked at that, was if you're going to advertise, say, tourism to Placerville, you're probably going to be focusing primarily on the downtown.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah, your photo is going to be
agreed.
Main Street.
May not be
Exactly, that's what, they're not
100%,
going to come to
but
Placerville
primarily.
Drive and take a picture.
Yeah.
With this whole
be your building.
issue with PDA kind of briefly stalled out, and I just hesitate doing something without at least their input or some consideration.
And I
on
agree,
that.
and I absolutely do not recommend that we designate that funding for it tonight. We're not ready to do that. We
Right.
need to come back with a full plan of how that should go, so.
Well, I would go ahead and make a motion to direct staff to go ahead and pursue the option of the $2,000 fund and bring back more information as to what it would look like.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, Regina, we do a roll call vote.
Mayor Saragosa,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Acuna.
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli.
So Clee, we want really good pictures.
Yes. On Placerville Drive.
I want to clarify, make sure I heard that correctly. You are authorizing me to spend the $2,000 and, because I need to give them the go-ahead that
Yep.
we're moving forward. Is that correct?
That was my.
I didn't get that from either.
Oh,
I
I'm
thought
sorry.
it was just
To
for us
pursue the
to
$2,000,
approve
yes.
first.
Yeah.
Well, he's
I
gonna-
thot that's what you were saying, but I heard.
To approve the
I just wanna
$2,000
make sure what-
expenditure.
And my second concurs.
I can sign on the line to say we'll spend $2,000 is what I'm asking, so, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, so good
good
pictures,
correction.
lots of,
Placerville
plastic,
Drive.
make sure we're not lost in the shuffle there.
Yep, will do.
All right. Item 12.2, provide direction to staff on how to proceed with the Main Street holiday lighting. And again, this goes to our city manager.
Yes, unfortunately, our city engineer who put this report together is floating somewhere in the Caribbean, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, unfortunately for us, not for her. But I don't know that,
She couldn't Skype in.
Anakin, that's right.
I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this. You have the report. It was very well written by Rebecca.
Right.
We all understand the issues. I do want to emphasize one of my big concerns is the possibility that someone drives down there with a little bit taller vehicle or
Wipes it out.
something in the back of a vehicle that catches one of those and either pulls down the lights or pulls down a light pole, one of the two. And so I do want to emphasize that is somewhat a concern. I don't know that it would happen, and I've talked to several people about that. The other thing, and I want to mention, I mentioned that Sue Rodman did provide some an email to me this afternoon regarding this. Oh, I gave it to you, sorry. Anyway, it basically says that she feels that they should come down. They were there for the holiday, and her comment is it degrades their effectiveness if we leave them up. She compares it to people who leave their Christmas lights up until Valentine's Day. Hopefully none of you have got your lights still up.
Lights are down. Oh, another call.
So anyway, that's basically what she's saying. We should take them down, put them back up at the next year. So that's really all I have. I mean, there's pros and cons to it. I see both sides of it. I will tell you that most of the people that have talked to me about it have been in favor of leaving them up. If you were to ask, survey, I haven't done a survey, but those people that have talked to me generally have been in favor of leaving them up. But I've been one of those that have said, do you lose that effectiveness of a holiday season and the bling, if you will, that brings up when you put those up. So I see both sides of it, so I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
I'll just put some comments into the record from Kara. She emailed me a couple, so I just wanted to get her thoughts out there as well. She said, let's see, I love the lights on Main Street. They look great. I want to thank everyone that made that happen. I do think they may lose some of their shine if they become a year-round site. She has questions for staff. My questions to staff would be, what are the expenses involved with taking them down and putting them back up again? Can we count on volunteers for both steps going forward? She does have some concerns about someone driving by that could potentially pull them down with too high of a clearance. And then she wanted to know, are the bulbs glass or shatterproof plastic? What option is the city engineer most comfortable with? She had a kind of maybe a middle ground as well. She said if we do decide to keep them on, Maybe we should stop lighting them between Memorial Day and Labor Day weekends so they don't lose their festive holiday quality, and to preserve the life of the bulbs. Also, stay light longer. The other thought she had was to run them parallel on the streets as opposed to crossing the streets, so that you would have them sort of bowed along the lights. Probably need more light strands to do that, but that they would be there permanently. So just wanted to pass Kara's thoughts along on that as well.
Good comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So one of the other considerations is that the extensions that we put on the top do need to be taken down and painted and either anodized or something that's for a longer, that'll last longer, because I know they're gonna rust here if they're not already starting to rust. And also some consideration that making that, there's a potential, and the engineering would have to reflect this, that we could extend them up a couple inches to take care of that. But the higher you go, the stronger the pendulum, the more it pulls it over. So there was some talk about that, because we did have a really tall one at one time, and then they brought it back down because of the pull on the size of the nut, the size of the bolt that's holding it in. There's a lot of factors. So I've asked about 20 people, and about 19 of them said leave them up.
So let's take them.
And it's a completely unofficial, but I do think we need to pull them down to do that. So maybe this year we pull them down and we consider it for next year. Maybe we put them up in the fall as the daylight stops. There's a couple different options there. At some point, I think we will have to pull them down this year to do that. And to, some of the ways we have some of the things secure. I was involved in putting these things up. So some of the ways we have some of those things secured up there, they're great for the short term. Long term, you might need to readdress how they're attached to get the full height out of it, with the D-rings, and whether those are gonna, the carabiners, whether that's the most appropriate option or not, I don't know. So that's my thoughts on it.
If I could, please, I just want to answer a couple of those questions. There is volunteers, they're willing to take them down, so it would not cost us to take them down, is what I've been told right now. And I can't say for sure for next year, but I assume that we would be able to put something together to put them up next year. Dennis knows more about that than I do, what went on, but I think we could get it done next year. But I know to get them down this year, the volunteers are ready to do that.
Yeah, I think there's several of us sitting up here as well that would be more than happy to do.
I'm not climbing any ladder to get those.
Patty can direct us to make sure we're doing it right.
Public comment?
No, that's what I was just going to do. So I was going to go ahead and
make
open this up for public comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, microphone.
Oh,
I'm number 21. I love the lights. I think they add to the atmosphere of Placerville. I was born and raised here. When I was a little girl, used to do the parades, when I was a Brownie, Girl Scouts. And around Christmas time, I do remember growing up, there was so much more decorations than there has been in years. And so this is the first time I've seen anything near that. So if there were colored lights, different colors, I'd say, yeah, take them down. But they're white, they're clear. You go to other downtown areas, and the lights just add a really nice festive feeling. It's not necessarily seasonal, so I'm for the light staying and more decorations. And I'll help volunteer. I'll go up the ladder.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring him back to City Council.
I believe that the cost of those lights was about $5,000, including installation for the first time. Does that sound about right? Because the tree was a little less than 5,000, but the tree was.
Seems like that's what we heard.
The tree was about 11,000 or 10,000, right around that range.
Those numbers sound right.
Yeah. So that, if we do have to replace them, there's that cost. But part of that $5,000 was also stringing the cable and the cost of the cable. So it would be reduced by that amount. And we have volunteers now.
The cable would be ripped down if a truck hit it.
Right, yes. Yeah.
He's talking about taking it down and reusing
Oh,
it.
taking it, oh,
Mhm.
okay.
So we would have the cable, and we would also probably have volunteers at this point. That also included the initial installation of it. So there's the cost of the lights, if we needed to replace them, we could find the funds for that as well. So we being the bigger we of our community.
Yes.
I'm volunteering, not the city itself.
Okay.
One, I don't know what colleagues think, what about if we put, and this is whether we take them down this year because we need to retrofit them better or what have you, but if we put, because I do worry in the age of litigation of somebody comes through with a huge truck and pulls them all down and then it's a we're to blame. What if we were to put a couple of signs up, whether it's 2 or 3 signs, north, east, west, maybe one south, somewhere, that just said, no vehicles over such a height or something to that effect. It probably would be a de minimis cost to do that, but I just would also want us to think about how we have to protect ourselves.
In the dark of the night, those, you might not read that
That
either.
is just as true. But I think it would be maybe just being cautious to have some kind of signage as well, regardless of what we decide to do tonight. Nick, I don't know if you have.
Yes, Mayor, that wouldn't be a very high cost at all to put signs up at both ends of Main Street.
Thank you.
We have one more sign.
It would be another sign. This is
In the
true.
myriad of
Yeah,
signs
that's what
that we
we need,
have at all
another
the
one.
entrances of
And where
our
would we put the sign?
signs.
Well, we need a
yes.
committee to figure out where the sign
Okay,
went.
I want to offer my opinion.
Sure.
Okay. I probably going to be swimming against the tide of those 19 folks that said, but I am in favor of taking them down. I think it's, and I understand why the people, are, because it is kind of a wow factor and it's new, but I feel like it's something to look forward to each year. Anymore, I would not advise, I would not want to see the Christmas tree lights, even as beautiful as it is, and as much as I look forward to it, I wouldn't want to see those all year. I wouldn't want to see the trees on the highway all year. And I think it's kind of in that same category. And I will say this, that one of that Tammy was talking about, in the days gone by, those trees that were lining Main Street that my husband tried so hard to get, anyway, they were a big mistake because the roots, pulled up all the sidewalk. But anyway, those trees used to be decorated. And that was when you came into town, it looked like a fairy tale town. All the merchants, I believe, paid, I think, for the electricity for those. But it was beautiful. And this came a close second. I felt the same way when I saw that. But I am in favor of taking the lights down and putting them back up, maybe in October, so that it would cover all the, maybe for the Halloween celebration, Thanksgiving, a little bit longer than the tree lighting. But I really think that if we leave them up, they're going to become, there's the lights. It's just not going to have that same wow factor that we all experienced with this year. That's just my feeling.
All right. I'll go ahead and make a motion.
I think Mark had it.
Kevin, yes, I did, absolutely.
I'm shocked.
I'm going to talk really slow now. First of all, kudos to everybody that was involved in that. That looks great. And I agree with Tammy. I remember being a big fan of Christmas decorations in downtowns. This is as close as we've been in decades to what it used to look like. And we used to have the big garlands that went across Main Street that different property owners allowed bolts and stuff to be anchored into their buildings, 40 or 50, 60 years ago.
Put those up.
Dennis put those up. And the electricity got hooked up, however, it all, just everybody made it work. Then there was the lights that Patty referred to, and there was big wreaths and candy canes. It looked cool. Sutter Creek is as close, just in a short drive anyway, that I know of that still kind of does that with all the big colored lights and what have you. I would hope that maybe in 2020 we can look at maybe a couple of big garlands or something in improving it. We need to also look at going back to getting the city bathroom decorated. There were past council members that always made sure that that building had lights all around it. It's had various Christmas tree displays on top of it. I mentioned to Patty today that a Santa sleigh would look great up on top of the bathroom next to Old City Hall.
And one year, I think
This
he was up
building
there.
is a dark, sad place that needs some lights and a big wreath. And I've got some ideas that I'm sure we all did. City Hall, Cleve and I even talked about. Poor old City Hall just sits there. And it would look great with about a 20-foot wreath on it, wouldn't it, Tammy? I mean, we're talking a big wreath. So that when you're on Highway 50, you go, ooh, we need to stop. So there's a lot of great other things we can do. Those lights that were put up there this year, though, those poles are not designed to hold that kind of strain. There's some of them are leaning. You guys have got it as tight as you can get it. And I appreciate the fact that Rebecca calculated the overturning moment on going higher you go, the more you pull the pole. Because it's a couple of them, as I say, have got they're holding. But that's not what they're designed for. And the lights aren't designed to be up there all year round. I would tend to think they're Christmas decorations. That's what they were put up with the intent this year. The garlands that were on the streetlight posts on all of our bridges that were donated and installed were beautiful. Some more of that would look great downtown, right, Tammy? Right. That's the kind of thing we need to have. And they came down because they were all part of the Christmas display. So, given that the situation is temporary, and if it can be done with volunteers, I would be in favor of taking them down this year. And for main reason would be just the losing the fact that they're holiday lights. I mean, that's what they were there for. Put them up maybe in early October. Everybody can enjoy them. Take them down in January. The issue is about taking them down. You guys could, I would hope, identify each location, each span, and take them down very systematically, and they should go back up in a third of the time.
It's already been considered.
Yeah, so, well, I did the line work for years.
And also for that maintenance, right? For the
Yeah, and they can do the maintenance. So those are my thoughts on, the thanking again everybody that was involved down there. But just looking at it, the other issue is the energy usage that goes on down there. The system isn't designed to really be limitless, and you just keep. I mean, thank goodness they're LED, or we would have already had a problem. I'm sure. Couldn't have done that with incandescent. What we did. Those lights are designed for seasonal displays. The particular street lighting agreements don't allow for year-round usage. It's for seasonal lighting displays, and so we're grandfathered in down here. So I would hate to see something happen to that too. So just something to
Who does
think
pay
about.
for the electricity? Where does it, the city does, right?
We pay per light.
You do.
I do.
Oh, Dennis, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, one of the things that the 95% of the people I talked to spoke of is the atmosphere that it provides downtown, and that atmosphere is something that I think it really adds to the quality of the experience downtown. When new people, even existing people, drive through town, it's the belief that they see a different Placerville, and it's a better Placerville or downtown area because of it. And that was the general sentiment. They love it. They want to keep it, and they like the feel of it. And it does provide a different feel. So, it is what it is on there. I agree that they're going to need to be taken down this year for maintenance and be put back up at a time specific at some point in the future. I would move that we move to take them down and have them put back up 1st of September for the fall season.
September or October?
September.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, just a couple of comments on my end. I sort of agree with everybody here on all these. I mean, for a variety of different reasons, I do think there is something special to be said about having the lights during the holiday season. But also to what Vice Mayor mentioned, everyone I've spoken to on Main Street has said they would love to have them year-round. They do think it brings a character and just a different feel to the evenings on Main Street. more light, I think more vibrancy, more of a nightlife for people on the street. Restaurants, businesses, everybody has said they really like it and they wish that we would do it year round. But at the same time, it's one of those things like you retire and you move somewhere for, and you think it's great, but after 6 months you're like, oh man, now what am I going to do the rest of my time? I didn't think this through. So it's like that 6 month thing. And
Well, we could always take them down if we get there.
well, exactly. And so my thought was kind of along a little bit of Kara and a little, I think what Dennis was saying was, why don't we kind of time it to the changing of when it gets darker quicker. And, you really don't, in the summer, it's almost light till 9 o'clock anyways. It's not as necessary to have those lights out there. So if we were to do something between like a September and a end of February maybe, or something to that, where you're kind of taking the preponderance of time where it's darker quicker, and then the rest of the time we would have them off for maintenance, whatever else we need to do to them, longevity of the lights, so that we kind of get maybe the best of both worlds. So that was kind of my thoughts on it. But I do agree with everyone that they probably need to come down because they weren't built. What we've done now was to do it for the holiday,
Right.
and to make sure that they work, but not as a long-term solution, just to keep them up ad infinitum.
And I'm also thinking, and it wasn't mentioned, it wasn't, I think, in here, one of Rebecca's suggestions was just maybe less time that they would be lit.
Right, yeah, she did talk about that, yeah.
Well, and I drove by on, I don't know, it was Saturday or Sunday, and they were on like at 2 o'clock. I'm not sure.
That's what I'm thinking.
That has to do with the photo cells.
Right.
Is it they just automatically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, there's some, I don't want, we don't want to get into it.
Are they day burners?
No.
You know what a day burner is?
Go ahead.
Okay. The street light that's under it, it's PG&E used to care about this kind of stuff. But you weren't supposed to have street lights on in your district during the daytime because you were wasting energy.
Yeah.
So it was called a day burner. You went out and fixed it. Now they tell you, no, call somebody else. We don't know street lights anymore. We sold those.
So we
But
covered up
you
the
got some-
photo cells to keep the speakers working during that time. So,
They do.
those will be uncovered, the photo cells will be uncovered, and the streetlights.
So then nothing will be off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're
Mayor.
burning up our light.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make an additional comment.
Yes.
Goes back to, Tammy will probably remember this. Ed, you probably won't. The old streetlights used to light up when we used to have festivities downtown. I hate to say it because they were not aesthetically pleasing, but they lit up Main Street better.
They did.
They really did. I know Mr. Driscoll was in charge then when we put these lights in, and he tried everything under the sun, bad pun, to deal with shields and glare to the motorists. Dave Warren shaking his head. We went through a lot with his new lights, and they still don't throw anything near the sidewalk lighting that the old ones did. So maybe while we take these down, and I'm sure there'll be a big hoorah when we do that, since the 21 people that Dennis talked to, 22.
19.
Give us a chance to explore. There was a Lisa Crummett years ago. I'm sure it was like herding cats, but she got almost every building owner to put lights, including the county buildings, outlined all the roof lines. You remember that, Dennis?
That was paid for by the Downtown Merchants Association.
So there we have it. And that looked great. Now imagine if that might be the impetus, our taking the lights down for maintenance and putting them back up will maybe create some interest in the community to finding some more permanent lighting that maybe doesn't cause a hazard. I do have a fear that some renegade truck is going to come through there. The trucking industry is nothing like it used to be, and I could just see some big box truck go, and we'll have half a dozen damage claims for damage to cars and hopefully not injured people and personal property and
Cleve, did you have a
Well, just my comment was going to be similar to what Mark was saying. If there's that much interest in changing something to lighting or whatever, we take these down, maybe we explore, on the buildings, or maybe there's some other lighting feature that might be a year-round thing different than this that
Or that we
you
allow
wanna
merchants to
consider.
put certain kind of
Right,
lighting up or
right.
something.
But something that could,
can do
you
their
know, if it's a
own.
lighting issue, we can look at that. Maybe it's additional lighting, whatever, for the future that can be a year-round thing, and then something like this still for Christmas time or the holiday season, so.
Thank you, Cleve.
Did you get a second?
Nope.
could have another
Didn't get a
committee.
second.
I'll second this motion.
Whose motion?
Dennis's motion.
What'd you say?
Do you
I
remember?
move that we take them down for maintenance purposes and put it back up September
September.
1st.
Oh, that's
Or
right,
thereabout.
September.
Or thereabouts.
Sometime in September.
Yeah,
Yes.
so September's good.
In the month of September, how's that?
Okay.
Weather,
Don't want to
traffic
be too
permitting.
Yeah, I don't want to, I don't
You want
want
to give
We-
the
we like
volunteers.
vagueness.
Is there a,
I seconded that motion.
okay.
I'd be glad to. I think it'll lead to good things, Tammy.
Regina's trying
Anybody want
to.
to go home?
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? No. All right. There you go.
Thank you.
Good night.
We'll call you in June, because that's when we got to order the Christmas lights. I need to know where you live.
All right. So moving on to item 13, council reports.
Goodness gracious.
Anything from transit?
Haven't met.
Okay. Transportation Commission.
Haven't met.
LAFCO.
We met, and the big topic was the fire district consolidations. The meeting was well attended. I thank Chief Cordero for being there, as well as a couple of the other chiefs from the north part of the county. The direction from the LAFCO commissioners was to first have LAFCO staff complete the municipal service reviews for all the fire districts. They're approximately anywhere from 18 to 24 months overdue. So that's an oversight on the LAFCO as a commission's part, because those MSRs are going to give us clear and consistent information as to the level of services out there in the fire districts. The other direction that was given was to allow the current fire chiefs and fire organizations to work on a couple of different proposals for consolidations and allow those to come in on their own accord rather than LAFCO acting as the initiating agency. By doing that, it would save LAFCO at probably $100,000 in expense that would be shared by the city and the county to prepare if LAFCO was to had decided to move forward as the initiating agency to force consolidations. Well, that may have been about a 12 to 16 month process, and it would have had a significant bill to us as one of the participating agencies. So that was not the direction given. That's the end of my report.
Great. Thank you, Mark. SACOG, today we had our first commercial corridor task force meeting. This is sort of a build-off of what's gone on before. Former Mayor Thomas and former Mayor Clarici were on as well prior. And so this task force is going to be quarterly. I got sort of volunteered to be the vice chair on that, so I will be pretty heavily involved in this as well. I think the goal here is to try to identify some funding as well for all of the projects that were started to see if we can't find some seed money to look at to do some more things on Broadway on these corridors. And so more to come on that. And then Thursday, I'll be traveling with SACOG down to San Diego with a contingent of SACOG members to do a tour throughout San Diego. We're going to do some of their mixed-use areas, trolley, I think their Green Line, and then meet with their members of Sandag, which is their COG in the area. So it should be a pretty interesting tour. Supervisor Veer Camp will also be on this one as well. So looking forward to hopefully bringing back some good best practices as well from San Diego.
San Diego's done some great things, and
They have. I mean, I wish
We're
we had
kinda
their budget, but
we're oranges and apples, but still, it
Yeah.
shows what
Yeah.
can be done.
absolutely. Fire Safe Council.
Yes, we did have a meeting in December, discussed a lot of things. As I mentioned before, Chief Cadera was also attended that. One of the things I'm going to bring out, and also we are going to meet again, it'll be February 20th at the Veterans Hall, 5:30. But also, in addition to that, the Community Wildfire Protection Plan is a I'm going to read this. This is from the group. Is a foundational part of what the Placerville Fire Safe Council is working on, and the plan was developed in the collaborative framework established by the Wildland Fire Leadership Council, and agreed to by several other, the state, the tribal, the local government, etc. Anyway, it's all about this plan, and we're going to have a fellow by the name of Barry Cullenberger. Do you know his, but he's apparently an expert in talking about, and so they're going to have a meeting at Rayleigh's. It's in their, in the community center at Rayleigh's Supermarket. It's in the back of Rayleigh's, and it's going to be January 31st at 3 p.m. that he's going to do the presentation and talk about all this plan, and so anybody that's interested, you're all invited. The room is only so big, so I don't think it can handle too many people, but I think all of our board is going to be there, and I know I'm going to be there, so if you're interested in, or hearing about this, so that's what's going on with the fire protection.
Great. Thank you, Patty. Item 14, request for future agenda items. Anything? Okay. Item 15, city manager staff report.
I just have one item to bring up, and I'm not real excited about. I received a letter from the Department of Transportation, and they have recently completed a speed survey on Highway 50 through Placerville. As you know, those speed surveys, they look at what percentile the speed they are traveling, and then they establish the speed limit based on that. And based on their study, they are saying that they are going to raise the speed limit to 50 miles an hour through Placerville. We have the opportunity, and I have now signed a letter sent back to them requesting that we hold a public hearing first. I don't know that there's anything we can do, because they made it clear in the letter they cannot they cannot change it based on emotions or sentiments of the public. It has to be on factual data. But I want to explore that. I've talked to the chief about it. I want to explore that and see what things such as the traffic signals, the auxiliary lanes, et cetera, are there things that could come into play in there that maybe they have not considered that could help us maybe keep that. At least my position is, their position explained in the letter is that they feel that will decrease the number of accidents that happen, rear ends. I don't.
Oh my God.
I believe that it will be the opposite, and they will probably be more severe accidents because there's higher speeds involved.
Well,
but at least at this time, that's what we have. We have 30 days to hold the public hearing and provide information to them. So I am going to suggest, and I haven't talked to Terry about this yet, but I'm going to suggest that we hold that public hearing we may need to do it the third week of January, the week of January 20th.
Or February.
February?
Or excuse me,
Yeah, give up
February
January.
30th. That's why I'm looking at that date wrong.
That's why that didn't
Well,
work, right?
I'm in the wrong month. Yeah, I was looking at the 26th or 27th of February. I just wanted to, with your approval, I'll check with Terry and see if we can get this building for that. We'll advertise as wide as we can. Again, I'm not sure exactly what we accomplished by that, because of the fact that, again, they're not going to listen to public
No, they're
sentiment,
not.
public
remember
emotions,
when
et
they
cetera.
upped the speed limit
Yeah.
all around here to 30 instead of
Right.
25?
So, unless you tell me differently, I will try to, not try, but we will get that public hearing scheduled. It's not specific. I don't know. I was assuming that it would be the city council holding that public hearing. But if you wanted it to just be on a staff level and or sit and listen, we can do it that way too.
Well,
I'm open to your suggestions.
Let me ask you then, if they, if I'm a bit of a realist, and if they're not going to accept any emotional, what's the right word?
Comments?
Comments, the citizens of the city are not going to develop any fact-based comments.
You're right.
And so
Yeah.
why, I say this with all due respect, why waste the staff's time of doing this
Right,
if
I
we're not
agree.
going to affect the outcome unless we do provide some fact-based
I agree with Dennis. One question I do have, though, is because I vaguely remember this, because I remember coming and testifying as a constituent on the Highway 49. I think they wanted to raise it to 30 or 35, and it stayed at 25. So I don't know if there was a difference there, and we certainly had, and I think it was in this format. It was City Council
49, were you by your house?
by our house. Yeah,
They raised it to 30. That whole,
They did.
it's not
Is
25
it 25?
anymore. Yeah, it's 30 now.
It's 30.
Maybe if I could, maybe can I read this one
25.
paragraph
I
from,
think.
that they sent me today in their email?
35
It says,
each of them.
if the comments identify issues that the study did not account for or identifies errors in the methodology or justifications, Caltrans will reevaluate the study and take those comments into consideration. That said, we are unable to respond to emotional feelings or hypothetical concerns the public may raise. The study must be quantifiable to stand up in court.
Is their study available for public view?
Yeah, I have it. I can put it up on our website if you'd like, and definitely send it to all of you, so you have.
It sounds like there's a little bit of wiggle room.
It does, when they say if there are issues with how'd she say that, account for errors in the methodology or justifications. That's the one area I see, justifications. And that's why I asked the chief to talk to CHP. Perhaps they can provide some information from what they've seen and what has worked in other areas, but we can look at that.
Chief, I was just, do you have any comments, Chief, on this one?
Oh, my goodness.
None?
With the congestion we have, we can't even go.
I just think raising the speed limit is a huge mistake, but I'm not a traffic expert either. Caltrans has all the scientific data and their formulas, and but I tell Cleve, I drive on Highway 50 every day coming in, and people already drive too fast, and we think if you raise it, people will drive faster, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, is there any special, the fact that we have this unique thoroughfare through here, I mean, this is not your typical.
That's what we want to
And
explore.
Caltrans is well aware of our situation.
And by holding this public hearing basically gives us the time to delay their action. If we don't do this, they'll move forward to implement it without any more information.
You could just look at all the skid marks on Highway 50 coming around the corner, westbound up past Mosquito.
One of the things that I think is interesting that I discussed with the chief today, and I think you're all aware of this, by some legislation that was done at some time in the past, we enforce and respond to accidents on Highway 50, correct, Chief? That's all ours. So this could increase our workload in having to respond to accidents if we make the assumption that there's going to be additional accidents as a result of more severe accidents.
Didn't we recently sign an agreement to allow them to cover those? Didn't that happen?
We looked at doing that, and Lieutenant Stover and I we were getting the documents ready to present, and then he discovered an old document in the state archives or something, that it takes a piece of sponsored legislation, either an SB or an AB bill, to turn that part of Highway 50 back over to the state. Originally him and I were like, that's a big lift that no one wants to hear about in the legislature, but I explained to Cleve I might talk to Assemblyman Bigelow's office today, or not today, but at some point, and see, because CHP would like to have it back. I'm more than happy to turn that back over to them, because if they raise the speed limit, yeah, good luck with that. But CHP already, the state already controls all the light signals. They do all the maintenance, road work, paving, striping. The only thing we do are the traffic enforcement, and it's between a certain point, and I can't remember the exact points off the top of my head. I'm happy to give it up, but we'll see. I don't know if we can do that or not.
They might even be able to drop that into like an omnibus transportation bill. So
we were thinking of a trailer bill somewhere along the line.
You don't even have to run a full.
Which would be awesome.
Yeah.
Easier.
But with all the congestion we have, there's no way, we don't even go 40 miles an hour. But where it does increase, and I have seen this time and time again, is eastbound. The minute you leave, get past like Schnell School Road, boy, everybody just steps on it, and they just,
Even past Bedford, yeah.
That starts at Bedford.
Yeah, even past Bedford, but that seems to be, to me, the problem area.
Can I ask a couple questions, Mr. Mayor? Cleve, are you proposing a special city council meeting or just having it as a part of the second meeting in February?
Well, I was looking at specials, but we could do it as part of the second meeting in February. I hadn't thought of that.
Is the agenda going to be late? Like tonight?
I haven't looked that far ahead. I'd have to take another look at it. I'm not
Well,
sure.
I would, well, I look at our staff sitting here staring at us, and I don't know that they need to be here for that entire event.
I would tend to disagree. Caltrans has a record of not looking through situations on the Highway 50 corridor in a thorough manner. A couple of the Echo Summit closures that were canceled and rescheduled a year later. The Highway 50 bridge at Mosquito Overcrossing that they were going to do during Apple Hill season with 2 weeks' notice to the community. The fact that the lieutenant at the Highway Patrol digs back and finds an ancient document creating a very unique situation where the city PD is responsible for a state highway that we have to get an encroachment permit from Caltrans to go out and work on, tells me that there are some unique situations that could very easily apply to this. And I would like to have our city engineer here, our police chief, maybe the lieutenant from the Highway Patrol, maybe Woody from transportation. We don't need the transit here. We have buses. We don't need buses. But yeah, I think we also owe it to the public to be transparent with what Caltrans is going to do to us, because we can all see that it's not going to work, and yet there may be we have an obligation, I feel, to allow the public a chance to have their say.
I guess my question on whether or not we do it at a council meeting is, how much public comment do we think we'll get on it? Especially if we make that comment that we cannot do it, we cannot change their opinion based on public emotions and sentiment. It has to be on factual data, which brings it back more to our police chief and our city engineer that know the traffic models and et cetera that go into that, and finding a way perhaps to present data to them.
Has
So
the
it
city
might be more of
engineer
that.
taken a look at the traffic end?
She has not yet, no. But she will.
Yeah, I think this is a big enough issue where it can stand on its own. I mean, this will definitely generate interest from the community, I believe. I would be in favor of having a special meeting, whether it's the council or whether we do it as a workshop, but either way.
I would like to add, Mayor and Council, that the 27th through the 3rd is this part of the building is going to be taken over by elections.
Oh, that's
So
right.
Oh, they're
it
coming
would have to
back.
be the 26th or before.
They haven't used it in a while. No, okay, that's cool. So we are a voting place again. Congratulations, Mr. Zeller.
What other dates?
The 26th was one of the dates I was looking at, Wednesday, the 26th, and that
Yeah,
potentially
they're
would-
not moving until Thursday afternoon, the 27th.
Okay, so the 26th is a Wednesday. Unfortunately, the day after your city council meeting, so there's 2 nights in a row, but.
Can't we do that at a regular meeting?
But the 26th would be a potential. I don't know what else Terry has in the building that night, but hopefully.
I would
we
have to
can
check.
rearrange.
Other than that, that's the big thing on the calendar, but the 26th may be doable.
I mean, everything is, what if we did it early on, like we did a 5 o'clock meeting
On the 25th,
on the 25th?
I'm open to that too. We can do that.
Just do
Schedule
a
it
special
to
meeting
our
prior?
City council meeting.
What does the council think?
That's our regular meeting days?
Just do it earlier?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Probably won't get the attendance.
That's the only thing, though, is
be
if
at
it's
5
earlier.
o'clock, But we'll have all the important people here.
They specifically.
Or we could do it at a time certain, start the meeting at 5 and then do that item at 6 if you're concerned about.
No, it's too uncertain about how many people are going to be here and want to be heard. I mean, unless we set it.
Well, I'm saying we start
if
the
we just
regular
said-
meeting at 5, but at say
and
6
if
o'clock.
we said, okay,
pick
it's
that
going to be
item.
over at 7, and that's, no more discussion, so
Well, it
we could
goes
do
when it
that.
goes.
Time certain.
Does
And then-
anybody have any comment on how many people you think, what the experience in the last time we did this was
49?
49?
There were a lot.
I'm thinking back to when Caltrans changed it on Rupley grade and went up to 65. There was a ton of people that went on for months.
I remember, for 49, I remember quite a few people here. I mean, it wasn't like 15, 20 people maybe commented.
And it didn't do any good.
And your stop sign down there is another example of
Right.
Caltrans magic. They told the city for years that stop sign will never work on that intersection, and then they went and put one in.
Yes,
and
they
it
did.
works great.
And it took one lady that did it.
Yeah.
At
Right.
Caltrans.
Yeah, that's so.
Let's go at 5:30.
5:30?
Yeah. And we'll just start then, a little bit early.
So 5:30 on the.
On council.
On council
day.
day.
What if we have closed session?
Then we'll have to
Just
start.
go
at
earlier.
We'll go earlier,
Okay, so move it back.
4:30
accordingly.
or whatever.
Whatever,
yeah.
whatever time necessary.
However much time we need.
Okay, that works.
Except they don't get off work till 5.
So 5:30 on the 25th,
Yeah.
right? Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
That's gonna mess people up.
All right, so item 16, upcoming items, just a couple of things to highlight here, which is great. The release of the Spring Street and Mosquito Road for public bidding. I think we'll all be jazzed about that one. Finally, Placerville drive scope change, a recognition of our Festival of Light contributors, MOU for a joint public safety building, and hopefully our local 39 MOU. Anything else? I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
All right, good night.
Good night.
All righty.